We'll move now our public address microphone to the front of the line, where Jim Philippi will be standing by for the magic moment for the start.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are at that time of the day for the command that will start the 77th running of this event. Here to give the traditional words is Chairman Emeritus of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Board, Mrs. Mary Fendrick Hallman.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
There it is, the traditional.
Representative of the engine start, each roars out a challenge now. The drivers anxiously watch their dash displays. Any sign of trouble will crop up there first. There was some concern for Lynn St. James' engine. The team had asked to take the car off the grounds and test it, but that is not allowed, and so we watch up and down the line to make sure all of the engines are started. 33 cars are ready to be led by the pole sitter, Arie Luyendyk, who nods the affirmative that he is okay. Nelson Piquet, three-time world champion, stares straight ahead, contemplating the day. Japan's Hiro Matsushita. A tremendous field of competitors, 11 rows of 3, ready to roll toward the green. Each row now, the Chiefs will hold their hands in the air, indicating that their car is started and ready to go racing. What a remarkable story. J for Jeff Andretti on his helmet. And with Jim Perkins, the general manager of Chevrolet Motor Division at the wheel, and Stuart Richcoy as the marshal of the Camaro Z28 pace car, is leading those machines out. Let's go to Gary.
Paul, the moment's finally here. We wait all year long. The crews, all the countless hours, ready to finally get it going. The scramble now, off the grid, onto pit road. Dick Simon, 5 cars in this race. Boycell in the front row. Is this your best chance ever to win at Indy?
Yes, Gary, the emotion is so high. It's all I can do to keep from crying. Diane and I feel that this is the, our best year ever. I just don't know what to say. I'm so happy that the crowd and everybody is here, our sponsors, and I just hope the fans out there have a good race today as well.
24 years for Dick Simon. What a moment. Jack?
Gary Gerald, 35 straight years when they gave the command. This man, A.J. Foyt, was in the cockpit. Today, you're behind the wall. Your thoughts?
Well, it's like a nightmare, to be honest with you, Jackie. It's hard. Very hard.
Paul, he's making his way. He will call the shots on both John Andretti and Robbie Gordon, the rookie.
And how strange to see A.J. Foyt afoot at this time. You ride now with Scott Goodyear. He finished second last year. The field forms up looking for their familiar 11 rows of 3. In the Bettenhausen car, Gary, everything is settling down, and he is ready to go racing. Ahead, it's $1 million purse after 200 laps of the 2.5-mile oval. They're shooting for Arie Luyendyk's race record. Pit stops will be the key in the outcome of today's run, but perhaps the weather will affect it as well. The crews are watching the skies, and there are predicted showers later in the day, perhaps before the end of the race. There are some pretty sophisticated systems in use by the crew chiefs to watch the weather, everything from airplanes to a phone call from a house out to the west of the track. Now, there's a new twist in the pit rule speed limit this year. Here's Jack Arute.
Paul, for the second time in 2 years, there will be a 100-mile-an-hour speed limit on pit road in green and caution. Starting at the entrance to pit road and all the way down, there will be radar guns and display boards. If you violate the 100-mile-an-hour limit, you will be penalized. But they won't measure it by the radar guns. They'll use the onboard transmitter that does the scoring. They say the severity of the violation will determine the severity of the penalty. We'll have to wait and see.
The Indycar rules are designed to limit some technology in favor of the driver input. As you look over Danny Sullivan's right shoulder in a live onboard camera shot, Here are the chassis rules. The engines are 161 cubic inches enhanced by a single turbocharger. And of the chassis in the field today, well, the Lolas dominate. They are customer cars. The Penske's and the Galmer are limited edition specials. And with 3 basic engine designs dominating the race, the V8 Chevys, the Fords, and the V6 Buicks, or their later models, the Menard. You're looking at one of our 6 onboard camera shots as Danny Sullivan works his way across the start-finish line and down toward turn 1. These are the onboard cameras that we have today that will help you keep track of the 77th running of the Indianapolis 500. And we also have 3 cameras on board the pace car itself. That Camaro Z28, it's driven by Jim Perkins. As the field comes even closer into formation, he wears a special noise feedback headset so he can hear the commands of Chief Steward Tom Binford on the radio above the roar of the pack behind him. As suggested, the pit stops may play a key role today. For a further update, here's Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, as we've heard, the drivers almost to a man say it's going to be as tough to pass today as it's been in recent years at Indianapolis. So consequently, more emphasis than ever on pit stops. Every team expects to make at least 7 stops for 500 miles. And keep in mind, if you can save 2 seconds down here, you're going to save at least a couple of 100 yards out there in the racetrack. This is the Gallus crew. They serve Al Unser Jr. They won the pit stop competition earlier this week. They're pumped, primed, psyched, ready to go, Paul.
Because of the importance of those pit stop placements, some teams have even hired tacticians. Here's Jerry Punt.
Exactly, Paul. The average IndyCar race about 200 miles and typically 2 pit stops. As Gary just told you, you can expect that to escalate to 7 or more today. That's why many teams like Tony Bettenhausen's have hired race day tacticians. That's Steve Horn you're looking at there, the man back in 1986 who made the calls for Bobby Rahal and True Sports Racing when they won it all. Paul?
Steve Horn watches down the track. There are in this race today 6 former winners, accounting for 9 different wins. Al Unser Sr. is the all-time lap leader with 629 leading laps. He is also a 4-time winner and the oldest driver in the field. Yesterday he turned 54. The youngest rookie in the field is Stefan Gregoire, who turned 24 2 weeks ago. The oldest rookie, Nelson Piquet, who is 40. And now let's take a last look at the starting field of 33 cars ready for the Indianapolis 500 as the pace lap is now underway. All of these drivers agree that the first laps are critical. It is often debated as to whether to start on the inside or the outside of the front row and which makes for a better start. As the green unfurls, counting today's rookies, 601 drivers will have answered the Brickyard's challenge in 77 races. Starter to wave the green flag. The Speedway president, Tony George, has asked Nick Finoro, a former racer and a starter for all other IndyCar events for the past decade, to help send them on their way. This has been Nicky's lifelong dream. We wish him luck here today. So they come off the second turn on the pace lap and will soon fall into their familiar rows of 3, paced by Arie Luyendyk. You look at the front row, Mario Andretti to the center. To the far left is Raul Boesel. A moment now to begin to anticipate the start of this race. They have been cautioned to be so very careful. In the north end of the track now, the northeast corner. The field coming into nice alignment in the front rows. On board with Al Unser Jr. Some stragglers toward the back. But the rest of the field comes off the 4th and final turn. The pace car is already rolling on the pit road. The cars now begin to accelerate. They look for the green flag. And the Indianapolis 500 with a swirl of green is underway for the 77th time. As Raul Boesel sweeps to the outside around Arie Luyendyk and picks up the lead. Start of the race. Carefully, the rest of the field picks their way through the second corner and onto the long backstretch. Boesel continues to accelerate. Boycell will lead the first lap of the Indianapolis 500. Then Lyondike, then Mario. Lyondike runs in second place. Mario Andretti third. Al Unser Jr. crossed the line in fourth, followed by Scott Goodyear, Stefan Johansson, Emerson Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, and Nigel Mansell runs in ninth. They have been careful on this start. The chief steward, Tom Binford, asked them to be very careful. They have been so. We expect the pace to pick up as they begin to string out. Single file, there's the defending champion. He is in fourth place. Scott Goodyear, the man who battled against Al Unser Jr. last year. Raul cracked that first lap off at 201.14 miles an hour. With a tremendous charge now, Raul Boycell has thrown down the gauntlet. He is ready to lead and, if possible, win the Indianapolis 500-mile race. The rest of the field flashes across the line now. The fight is for second place. Arie Luyendyk having to deal with Mario Andretti. Three laps into the record book, and the pace picks up. Boycell is now charging at 213.5 miles an hour. To this moment, he is the fastest car in the field as we take a look at a fight between Emerson Fittipaldi in the 4 car and his teammate Paul Tracy. It is a battle for 9th and 10th.
The two Penske cars are a study in contrast. Emerson Fittipaldi, the veteran, Paul Tracy, the rookie. Both took it carefully at the start. They will not be dicing with each other for position yet with the idea of beating the other man. Still, it's in the early stages of the race. Caution and careful thoughts reign.
Now that battle on the backstretch. They just flagged past Bobby Unser. Bobby, a nice clean start. They really behaved.
Well, they certainly did, Paul, and one of the things that I noticed was how careful everybody, and I mean that literally, everybody was at the start. But after about 2 or 3 laps, we'll watch a little bit of dust quit rising out of the track. They're on it now. Boycell, of course, is pulling away just a little bit, but believe me, they're hurrying.
Al Unser Jr. runs in fourth. He is chased by Scott Goodyear. Shades of last year's Indianapolis 500.
Both Goodyear and Little Al are men that start slowly and come on strong, and it's an ominous note for the opposition that Little Al is running as well as he is this early in the race. At this point last year, he was back in 10th, and Goodyear was making his way up from dead last.
So the Indianapolis 500 is underway. Raul Boycell just cracked the fastest lap of the race at 214.18 miles an hour. So in lap number 5, Raul Boycell is leading the Indianapolis 500, the second time in his career. We'll be back. Indianapolis 500, I'm Paul Page. We watch a battle for fourth between the defending champion Al Unser Jr. and his nemesis of last year, Scott Goodyear. They have been closing on the track. Last lap speed on the Valvoline speed chart as we keep track of this race. The view backwards from Al Unser Jr. Fastest lap thus far at 214.184 miles an hour.
Eerie similarity to the last year. What, of course, is different is that the track is so substantially changed that the turns are narrower. You see the grass there on the inside where there used to be an apron. The question was, would that make the start more dangerous? Everyone funneling into turn 1 with nowhere to go? Well, everybody was careful, and it's worked out. The question now is, can you pass on this track, reconfigured as it is? So far, we've seen them strung out. The atmosphere has been more like a no-hitter going in baseball. No real action competition per se, but I think this tension, and it's a question of these drivers getting the feel of the track. We're going to start to see passes soon, and it may be between these two drivers.
Well, Sam and Paul, as I watch the track, it's getting a little bit slippery, as typical. Early in the race, the guys lose a little bit of fuel because they have everything, fuel or fluid, period, they have everything full. And so it gets a little bit slippery. And that's the reason everybody's being a little bit careful. Remember, the groove is narrow this year because they're all having to run on the racetrack.
And Mario Andretti has just managed to move around Ari Leyendijk and into second place as they are already overcoming slower cars in the field. Mario using those cars to his advantage and moves now to second. Fastest lap in the race, still 214 miles an hour.
They say there are old drivers and bold drivers, but no old, bold drivers. Mario at 53, I would say, qualifies as both.
You got a glimpse at the Valvoline driver's summary. We'll be seeing that throughout the day.
The enormous crowd here. So far, the weather excellent, but everyone has been looking at the radar screens that are scattered through the garage areas. There's a front passing, has already come into Indiana and is passing across the northern part of the state. Whether we catch a corner of that or not may very well determine how this race comes out.
You can see, too, that Scott Goodyear has moved around Al Unser Jr. And now take a look at Emerson Fittipaldi as he comes around Johansson, takes advantage of a fight between those two, and now sets his sights on Al Unser Jr. If there is a question about where they will pass, they've already begun to figure it out.
But that pass was on Stefan Johansson, an experienced Formula One driver, but a rookie here at the Speedway. I think he was very careful. Here comes Emerson again, now on Little Al, and he sweeps by Little Al. So Emerson is on the move, and he is the first man to prove that you can pass if you've got your act together here.
Fittipaldi very definitely on the fly, has moved up 2 positions in a single lap. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, we're beginning to see the reports of the cars getting very, very loose. That means the tail wants to swap ends with the nose. That's the case with Scott Goodyear, and now with Al Unser Jr. as well. The heat taking its toll in the early going to the chassis combinations.
We keep an eye on this battle now as you're watching the reigning world champion, Nigel Mansell, as he moves underneath Paul Tracy, and he comes forward in the field. Mansell now moving up into 9th place. This battle at the tail end of the top 10. Raul Boesel continues to lead. Now Tracy trying to set up on Nigel Mansell.
And remember, Mansell, as you see him being repassed there by Tracy, has never run on an oval before. He crashed before running at Phoenix. He's also never run in a race more than 200 miles long, so he's got a lot of things to learn today.
Paul Tracy now looks for room right behind Al Unser Jr. as he moved around Mansell. They head down into the first turn as Mansell signals to his board operator, and they turn toward Bobby Unser.
Well, Paul is still the same.
Yellow light, the yellow flag. And a car spun on the backstretch, but managed to keep it going.
It's Jim Crawford, I believe, of the Kenny Bernstein team. Crawford, who, of course, has had such an up-and-down career
60 car, right.
here. But luckily, he has not hit anything, although you see some smoke coming out of the back now.
Everything looks good over here, Paul and Sam. The only thing is that the track is very slippery right now, and everybody seems to be a little bit loose.
So with 15 laps into the 77th running of the Indianapolis 500, Raul Boesel leads, and we are under our first yellow. No contact with the wall, though.
Welcome back to the Indianapolis 500 live here on Sky Sports. Tyler Alexander, tell us a little bit about this yellow flag. What exactly is happening here?
Well, there was a yellow because of Crawford's spin, and they had run just enough laps, I think, probably to open the window for everyone to make their first pit stops. It allows you to, if you've had a little bit of a problem with the car, to make a quick change, to take some fuel on. It looks like just about everybody has stopped. It's a little bit early in the race, but you've used about half the fuel load in the car, so it was a pretty good opportunity, and because it was a yellow, you have to take that opportunity.
Still counts, though, this?
Oh, yes, all of these laps count. The pace car will have picked up whoever was next in the queue, which we'll have to wait and see who that is, but it looks like most of the leading group of cars certainly stopped in the pits for fuel.
Now, you keep the position you were in when the yellow... No, you lose that. Boesel was leading the race, and if someone has not stopped on this yellow and has stayed out,
and is behind the pace car, when it turns green again, they will in fact be leading the race. But they won't have stopped on a yellow or caution period. So, you know,
everybody closes up here.
Everybody closes up,
so
and
they will have to start again.
Yes, they'd like to start again. And if you haven't stopped, then you have to bank on there being a yellow when you need to stop.
Because you do take that opportunity, as you say, to refuel.
Refuel, perhaps make some small changes to the car if required, if it wasn't handling quite right. It looked like on the pit stops that most people only just took on fuel and not tires.
Let's go back to the States.
Dick Simon, first time a Dick Simon-owned car has ever led at Indy when Raul took the lead there. ABC's Wild Thing Weekend continues tonight when Jamie Lee Curtis and Kevin Kline star in A Fish Called Wanda. And then tomorrow night, African Beasts go wild in The Race for Life, and John Belushi goes wild in Animal House. That's all tomorrow here on ABC. Well, Kevin Cogan will lead the pack around as the leader of the race. He did not go into the pits, one of very few that did. For an update on Al Unser Jr., here's Gary Gerald.
Taking advantage of the yellow, the Unser crew came in, changed tires, added fuel. They took 2 full turns on the front wing. He was complaining, as Jack mentioned earlier, that it was loose. They've hopefully addressed that. Both Penske cars in adjacent pits, Fittipaldi and Tracy in, everything routine for them, Paul.
Kevin Cogan, Al Unser, John Andretti, and Robbie Gordon have not come into the pits. Dominic Dobson just has. So already the tactics of this day are beginning to play, and Sam the Cloud has been clouding up the sky just a little bit.
Yes, the rules are that the race must go half distance, which is 100 laps, plus 1 lap. There's Kevin Cogan. Before it can be an official race, it can, of course, be restarted if the officials, led by Tom Binford, think that the track will dry out before the end of the day. But that's all conjecture right now. We've got a race on our hands.
Well, so far, I can see from turn 2, Sam and Paul a long way to the west, and we don't have any rain in sight. I realize it's getting a little cloudy, but they're not rain clouds yet.
It's extraordinary to see Kevin Cogan back in the field at all, much less leading the race after his horrific crash 2 years ago and his very difficult rehabilitation period. A lot of pain suffered by this man. Great determination as shown by Kevin Cogan to be back in the field.
Green to the front row is green to the field, and already there is a battle underway at the front as Kevin Cogan leads them down. Al Unser now, he runs in second place. His car very similar to Crawford's and Guerrero's. You'll be able to tell it by the blue nose wings on the car. There's Raul Boisel as he now tries to work his way through the field. Mario Andretti sits just in front of him. They're actually in 4th place, battling for 4th right now.
And the car they're passing there, you see Mario go underneath John Andretti in the black A.J. Foyt car.
Kevin Cogan still at the front, being chased by Al Unser.
Most of the guys have probably made adjustments to their wings. We couldn't see them all when they came in, Paul and Sam, but they've made adjustments to them, and so far right now, just one time, they look a little better through here. Mario Andretti got around John. Very shortly, Raul will try to make the same move. Stefan Gregoire, they're just ahead of Scott Goodyear.
Gregoire is in that very brightly colored car, a rookie from France.
The leader of the race, Kevin Cogan, with Al Unser just behind him.
One can only think back to 1986 when Kevin Cogan so nearly had this race won with just a few laps left to go. Arie Luyendyk hit the end of the pit wall, brought out a yellow, and on the restart, Bobby Rahal, who isn't even in the race today, outstarted Kevin Cogan. Cogan finished second. He's always thought to himself, this is a race I can win. I believe he can.
This is the first time that Cogan has led since his near miss at a victory, giving it up to Bobby Rahal in 1986.
The extraordinary thing is it's the first time Kevin Cogan has really been in a race car for 2 years. Look at this.
And there is a pass for the lead, and boy, look at that as Big Al ducks underneath Kevin Cogan. And did he get around him quick? We suggested at starting that part of the way you're going to do this is slowing down a little bit on the approach to the corner and slingshot. And Bobby Unser looks like what they did there.
Well, they certainly are, Paul. You're gonna watch as the race goes on that the strategies are really gonna come out of passing, and we're gonna see some ingenious passing from one time to the other.
And Raul Boesel on the pit road. No indication as to what this stop may be for. He refueled during the yellow flag.
This could not be a planned stop. A stop and go. It's an assessed penalty, it looks like.
Now they ran him in and out quickly. Appeared to check something, and you saw a little puff of wheel smoke as he came out the
I think that was serving the penalty that he might have incurred passing illegally as he left the pits. I think that was our story.
That is the confirmation as we watch Al Unser.
Al Unser, of course, a four-time winner, the only active four-time winner now in business. A.J. Foyt having retired earlier this month, and of course, Rick Mears retiring at the end of last year. This is the man, the only man alive right now that could win 5 Indianapolises. Of course, he finished a brilliant third here last year.
Paul, I think that one of the most amazing things that I'm seeing right now is the speed that Big Al is doing. If you notice that Kogan's behind him, but right behind Kogan is Mario Andretti. Now, Big Al was running back around 18th. Now he's able to lead the race.
Big Al's been running laps at 211 miles an hour.
Whereas Boesel had been able to crank out laps at 214.
Valvoline driver summary on Al Unser, the senior Unser. Bobby, does he have a specific game plan? Has he shared it with you?
Paul, I don't think he does. In fact, he's new mechanics he's never worked with before, and I think it's just all new to him, and they're just figured it out last night.
And this is a look back. This is why the penalty was assessed on Raul Boesel. He roars out of the pits.
Here it comes. He's going to pass Mario Andretti there. That's Mario on the inside. Jack Arute with Dick Simon.
Dick, you actually passed on pit road. Now your position is that's legal as long as it's under 100 miles an hour?
Yes, because they made a 100-mile-an-hour speed limit in the pits, and you have cars speeding up and slowing down. And when you enter the pits, it's awful hard for the driver to tell which car is which. Some are slowing down for their pit, some are speeding up, leaving their pit. Raul came in, and when you're in the pits, he doesn't know where Mario's stopping, and Mario's going to stop at wherever his pit is. If Mario's pit's at the other end, does that mean he has to stop with Mario and then go on down the pit? I cannot believe the call.
Paul?
Well, of course, what they're really looking at is the exit of the pits. There is a line there, and beyond which, under yellow, you're back in the racetrack and therefore not able to pass.
Big Al moving up on Hiro Matsushita here, the only Japanese driver in the race.
Al Unser still in front, keeping an eye on Paul Tracy, who runs in 10th place.
Remember that Big Al has not made a pit stop. That's a factor here in considering his lead.
I think we can, Sam and Paul, I think we can kind of get an idea by little Al. They took 2 turns out of his front wing. This is generally probably what happened to all the cars. What that means is that the cars were loose in the rear, or they were oversteering going in. And that's probably made a whole bunch of them a lot better right now.
Keeping an eye on Paul Tracy, closing in on the number 3 car. And the indication is now that there will be another penalty assessed very shortly on rookie Stefan Gregoire.
That is also a Dick Simon-owned car, incidentally, so lightning seems to be striking the 5-car Simon stable, at least early in the game.
28 laps are now complete. Paul Tracy, a brand new father, missed the final practice day on Thursday because of the birth of his daughter. Now in this race, doing everything he can to play catch-up as Nigel Mansell just moves around him. Let's go to the pits and get this update from Jerry Punch.
We're with Brian Barnhart, the crew chief for Al Unser Sr. And Brian, you made the call not to pit. Why?
We wanted to try and get a little bit ahead of everybody on track position, take a gamble early in the race and see if it's going to pay off for us or not. Starting in the back, we had to work our way up through the field. It looks like we can only go about another 2 laps. So
pit stops in 2 laps for the leader, guys.
You know, I have to think that that's going to be a bad decision. I sat with little Al last night. We talked about this for a long time. And unfortunately, it's something early in the race that you don't want to do, is have to pit under the green when everybody else is pitting under the yellow.
So we watch for a stop. Should come on the 32nd lap for Al Unser. Kevin Cogan, who has not stopped, if they follow a good strategy, should come in right behind him. The yellow is out again.
Well, that's a break for Al Unser Sr. Just the kind of thing that makes Danny Sullivan has ripped the right front off of his car. What a break for Big Al and the couple of other guys that, including Kevin Cogan, did not pit earlier. They'll now be able to pit under the yellow.
Sam, this shows that racing is a little bit of a gamble in some ways, doesn't it? So Big Al has certainly gained from this one.
Yep, not an inexperienced driver. Danny seems, of course, to be perfectly all right. This is the winner of the 1985 race, out of it right now.
So Danny climbs out of his car, obviously all right. We are under the second yellow of the day after Danny Sullivan bounces off the wall. We return with more of the Indianapolis 500 after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Two laps are complete at the Indianapolis 500. We are under our second yellow of the day, the yellow for Danny Sullivan, who has been in his 5th crash in 11 Indy 500s. He is okay, but Bobby Unser, this could be the definition of push, huh?
Well, Paul, this one, as we look at it, we'll have it up in just a moment here, but it looks very similar to the wreck that we had with Danny several years back. Looking at the car right there, the blue one. Now we'll do it another time, and you watch, it just turns loose and goes out to the wall. Here's regular speed again from Indycar. Now you watch him, watch his hands on the steering wheel. Now Danny, the thing's really strange. We know that the front end just let go, probably from track conditions changing, oil, water on the track, and etc. But the strangest thing, there he is to the right, coming out, and you can see once he hits the gray stuff, it just literally goes to the right. But he never turned the wheel farther, trying to get the car back on the racetrack. So it looks very similar to one they did before. Here's the changes in the track. You can see right front tire hits the gray in the racetrack, goes right on out. You can see the magnesium right front wheel hit the wall, the fire come off of it. Thank God there's not much wrong with it other than a bent right front.
Almost a replay of Danny's accident in 1988. Well, under the yellow, Mario Andretti has picked up the lead. We will continue under the yellow for several moments, and we'll be back.
Welcome back to our coverage of the Indianapolis 500, one of the great sporting events of the year. Our guests here, Tony Jardine, a PR consultant, who's known Nigel Mansell for the best part of the last 10 years, and Tyler Alexander, who's run both Formula One and Indy cars. In fact, you were with Tyler, Mario Andretti in 87, 88, 89 at this same event. So cards on the table. You'd like to see the old and the bold Andretti win this one, wouldn't you?
I'd very much like to see him win it. He tries very hard. He does a fantastic job, and he's a fantastic character. And as you can see, he's doing rather well so far. But it's very early in the race, but it would be very nice to see him do well today.
Nigel Mansell, Tony, over the first hurdle, the first 500 yards. He's still there.
No, he's still hanging in there very well, but Tyler made a little comment at the first few laps. They were very nervous. They were on their guard. They'd been all told to watch the start, very obviously. And then the passing started, and there was a great shootout between Paul Tracy and Nigel Mansell. And then Tracy finally went back round him on the outside, and the outside pass is a tough one at Indy. I think Mansell is in about 12th place now, so he's looking quite good.
And just to reiterate, these yellow flag laps count off the total, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Drivers will come together, some will refuel, as we've seen.
Right.
Some won't. Big Al Unser, but what a break for him.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's what you hope for there when you're trying to work out your strategy. If you try to do something different than the rest of the players, and it comes to you like it did to Al, it's very worthwhile. But it's a tremendous gamble to do that. Normally, you try to run what the other people that you're racing with. But he tried something and he got away with it this time, but maybe won't next time.
We saw those rather dramatic pictures of Danny Sullivan hitting the wall. Apparently, we hear no driver error. He lost the front, or the front end just went. I mean, that's the dangers of oval racing, eh? You just never know what to expect.
Well, those are the dangers of motor racing, full stop. It looked like his car pushed or understeered just out of the narrow groove which they were talking about earlier, got into the gray area, lost some grip from the front of the car, and slid out into the wall. But fortunately, Danny was okay and didn't look like it did that much damage to the car, but obviously put him out of the race.
Well, we're about to go green again. Let's go back to our colleagues at ABC.
Big Al has now led in his 11th 500. Al Unser Jr., the defending champion, is 8th.
This illustrates a point, as you see Mario Andretti here in his Ford-powered Lola, that we were talking about earlier, which is how much experience might come into play in this reconfigured track. There's less room to run in the turns, as we've said, and you have to have more experience than before reading the groove, the part of the track that really works for you. All these previous winners have been around racing a long time, and they know what they're doing out there.
Nigel Mansell answers Dwayne Sweeney's green flag. You saw him start to pick up the pace, but at the front of the field, that's Mario Andretti. Leading Ari Leyendijk and Emerson Fittipaldi. They run 1, 2, and 3.
This will be an interesting comparison. The first two cars here are Ford-powered, and of course Fittipaldi has a Chevrolet. Chevrolets have won the last 5 Indianapolises, but Ford has been looking strong. You see, outmoved by Leyendijk, Paul.
Leyendijk looking for room, goes very, very high on the track. Mario holds him off. Perhaps Ari's move held him off. Now you look out the back of Mario Andretti's car, Bobby.
Now this is where we knew there's going to be a difference. Mario blocked Leyendijk on the left. There is no apron to run on this year. There's only grass down there. So Leyendijk was going to try it on the outside. Mario almost squeezed him in the wall. That gives you an idea on how much strategy is going to go into the passing. But that was kind of what we call blocking right there, Paul.
Battle at the front of the field as Mario Andretti is holding off Ari Leyendijk. In third place is Emerson Fittipaldi. 1, 2, 3 on the backstretch.
Paul, there's another thing we want to keep in mind of. The team is split up in pit stop. About half of the cars are pitting at one particular time, and about half the cars are pitting another. It's 2 game strategies that have already been divided up early in the race that we'll have to watch, and that'll be the reason why that we'll go on in the race and find that they don't all pit together.
Well, the first 5 cars all pitted on the 16th lap under the yellow. Al Unser, who is the 6th car, along with Junior, pitted on the 39th lap under yellow. Nelson Piquet, the 77 car, into the pits. It's unscheduled.
This is the 3-time world champion who had such a savage accident here last year, breaking both of his legs. A year spent in rehabilitation. Does this sound like the Kevin Kogan story all over again? The same kind of thing? Obviously, this is a terminal problem.
Piquet immediately gestured to a team member to come over and help me out of the car, removed the steering wheel, and started to climb out. So now Nelson Piquet apparently joins Danny Sullivan out of the race. The only 2 cars out thus far.
Paul Tracy keeping the pressure on.
Let's also keep in mind, Paul and Sam, the drafting is a very important thing, as we saw this last restart with right here, Mario, Emo, and Leyendijk, that the driving is very important, and they were really moving back and forth across the straightaway. Now, we're going to see a whole bunch of that as this race goes on.
The Valvoline driver summary for Emerson Fittipaldi, who now runs in 3rd place, chasing Leyendijk and Andretti. Mario Andretti has moved past Bill Vukovich and Parnelli Jones in the all-time lap leader standings, and now ranks 5th with his lead here now.
As you see, Emerson Fittipaldi, when I talked to him the other day, I said, what innovations would you like to see here at the Speedway? I thought he might talk about changes to the track or something. He said, I'd like to see the cockpit fully enclosed with a big plastic bubble, so there'd be a complete survival system inside the car. I hadn't thought of that, and that might be something we would see even in the next few years.
We keep an eye on Emerson Fittipaldi. He was in 3rd place, pursuit of Ari Leyendijk. You get a glimpse there of that bright yellow car. That's Teo Fabi has moved up to 4th. Nigel Mansell now runs in 5th. But we asked Emerson Fittipaldi during a great race like the Indianapolis 500, how emotional do you become while you're in the cockpit?
I think when the race starts, the first 2 or 3 laps, I'm quite emotional, but then I'm able to cool down. And actually, sometimes I'm a little too cool. I think it helps, but sometimes it doesn't help so much. but you have to be as much as relaxed as possible. On the same time, you have to be very alert, very tense, very sensitive on your skin, on your ears, and everything you see, to have a good feeling of what's happening around you. And it's a very difficult combination. But when you are able to centralize all that together and make that work, I think that's when you're on your best.
Now let's go down to the Penske pits. Emerson Fittipaldi's pit, Gary Gerald.
Paul, a lot of drivers have been complaining about loose cars. Sullivan had the push. Emerson is happy. He said the car's working just the way he wants it to. They expect his next pit stop will be right around lap number 60. He's a happy man at the moment, Paul.
Well, they're setting a fairly torrid pace. Mario's turning laps at 2:13.8. Lyondike and Fittipaldi are both keeping pace with the leader. We've just crossed over the 100-mile lap. We're at 43 laps, the 100-mile mark. So 1/5 of the race is already into the record book. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, not only is Emerson Fittipaldi enjoying a good day, your leader, Mario Andretti, has no complaints about the setup of his race car. Conversely, second place, Arie Luyendyk, they did make a wicker bill change that last pit stop because the car was very loose. Now they say they only have to have it one more time. They will do it in the next pit stop with tire pressures, but he is still a bit loose.
And you know, Jack, you can watch Mario as he runs around. He gets right down on the rumble strips about half of the time. Now this indicates normally that a guy's handling really good, especially when he's going fast.
Now let's go to Jerry Punch. Nelson Piquet is with him.
And Nelson, it was a short day for you. What happened?
Well, in the carburation day, we had some problem with the engine. They think they fixed the problem, but from the start of the race, I had only 50 inch of boost. And the engine didn't have it. The engine didn't have any power. I was trying to hang him in there, but it was impossible. And after that, the engine blew up.
What about the passing? A lot of concern early on about passing. Can you pass out there in the groove?
Well, I have to pass in the straight. You pass in the streamline.
Nelson Piquet, the three-time Formula One champion.
Keeping an eye, too, on another Formula One champion, the reigning champion, Nigel Mansell, as he's just handled up Arie Luyendyk and is now moving in position for an attack to the front of the field. The leader is still Mario Andretti.
Mario, you see Emerson Fittipaldi closely pursued by Nigel Mansell. I believe that Mario is still leading Arie Luyendyk. So we have two battles at the front.
As we take a look at the battle for the front of the field as Luyendyk, using the traffic, moves around Mario Andretti and picks up the lead of the race. So it's to Luyendyk.
All the traffic is really making a big difference. In the turn, they're all lapping the cars now. They're really getting bunched up. We watched Luyendyk working on that hard speeds. We're clear down to 195 miles an hour. So he took advantage of it.
So Luyendyk now at the front, turned a lap at 213 miles an hour to get that accomplished. So on lap 47, another leader of the race, Arie Luyendyk. Race started with Raoul Boisel in the lead, then Kevin Kogan took over, followed by Al Unser, Mario Andretti, and now Arie Luyendyk. You ride with Nigel Mansell.
Mansell is driving, by my view, a tremendous race. He's been cautious throughout, but he's staying more than just on the lead lap, which is a crucial tactical thing that you must do. He's pushing it very successfully with no mistakes.
That's Lynn St. James that sits just ahead of Mansell. Emerson Fittipaldi just passed by Mansell. Now tries to close. The traffic very definitely a factor, just as many of the drivers worry. Let's get an update on Nigel Mansell.
Well, in the midst of the biggest race of his life, Nigel Mansell radioed to his crew. He's enjoying himself. He says, I like the cautions. It's like stopping for a bit of tea.
Oh, come on.
That's the spirit of Nigel Mansell, I'll tell you what. he has enjoyed every minute that he has been here during the month of May.
The question is, will he continue to enjoy the race, though, because his Phoenix crash left his back really hurting. He had over 100 stitches. They've had to siphon blood out of a cavity there in his back, and I think as the race goes on, it's going to be tough for him.
Well, you know, as we watch him over here in turn 2, Sam McCall, he gets through here really nice. He has a good line, he's aggressive, and he realizes that it's early in the race. So I think the guy's pretty smart.
Gary Bettenhausen moves around Lynn St. James, picks up 19th place as we continue to watch Nigel Mansell. You know, though, he's been injured in racing accidents before, twice broken his back. That kind of thing doesn't seem to slow him down at all. Here's the leaderboard of the rookies now in the field, led by Nigel Mansell, who is in 3rd. Robbie Gordon is in 10th.
Just
back
remember,
at the front of the field.
Just remember that a defending world champion has never managed to win Indianapolis. And here is Nigel Mansell running a strong 3rd as we go 50 laps into this race. 1/4 distance.
Ari Luyendyk leads it. Just 0.4 of a second back as Mario Andretti and then Nigel Mansell. And you can watch both of them now as they close on the leader. It's a 3-way battle for the lead in Indianapolis.
Remember,
Nigel sets up his teammate. Nigel moves to the inside. Can Nigel and Mario make it side by side into one? There is a battle there, and Mario slams the door on Nigel.
There's no love lost between these two men. They were teammates years ago for Lotus in Formula One, but right now, this was a team that was originally a 1-car team, Mario Andretti only, and then it became a 2-car team when Mario's son, Michael, joined it. But Mario did not have in mind having the current world champion come over and be part of that team. He's handled it well, Nigel has handled it well, but believe me, they are deadly rivals on the racetrack.
Bobby Unser, this is a terrific battle.
Yes, it is. In fact, I was trying to get in on the line there just a second and tell you that Nigel really used good judgment there. Opposite of what he did at Phoenix, because he went under Mario. He technically, in our world, had him passed, but he backed off, let Mario go on in there. And
in traffic, Bobby, they're coming toward you again.
Yes, and Nigel's going to take another run at him. He's getting back down turn 2, coming off of turn 2, and he's really going faster than Mario. He's going to be trying some passes at the end of the straightaway, using the drafting to help him do it.
The Valvoline race summary after 50 laps, 1/4 the distance here as Mario begins now to poke his nose under the side pod of Ari Luyendyk.
One thing working for Nigel as we see him pursuing Mario here is that in a sense everyone in this race is a rookie, just the way he is because of the reconfiguring of the track. Everyone is trying to find out what's going on out there. Nigel showing Mario, sometimes you pull out like that just so that your rival sees you in the mirrors and try to shake his concentration. It's just a little hello, here I am.
Well, pretty soon he'll surprise you, Sam, and he'll drive right on by because he does have a little bit of speed on Mario right now.
And Bobby, don't think that Emerson Fittipaldi, who lies right behind him, isn't thinking, oh, look at those guys race.
On board with Nigel Mansell. Fittipaldi may drop off of this battle. He currently runs in 4th, but he is due to pit on the next lap. He last pitted on lap 16. That's the same lap that everybody at the front stopped on. So one would assume that there goes Nigel. He moves to the inside as they come across the line. And can he hold the line down to the inside? He does. And Nigel Mansell takes over 2nd place from his teammate.
We can tell each lap, each turn, he's getting more confidence. He just looks better going through the turns. He's more in a good racing line now than we've seen.
And here is Emerson Fittipaldi. Let's go to Gary.
Emerson Fittipaldi ducked into the wrong pit area momentarily, Paul. Then he found the right spot, and he's getting the routine service. We don't see any adjustments up front. Earlier, he radioed the crew that he loved the way the car was handling. He's away smoothly. Oh, on the outside, one of the Bernstein cars. They came within inches of each other on pit road.
These stops being made under the green on the 54th lap, the 2nd set of stops in the race, though a couple of these are staggered. Let's watch Fittipaldi as he comes in, as Gary already suggested. He missed a pit. They wave him out of there. No, that's wrong.
That's incredible because that's way far away from where his pits are. But let me tell you, as having driven in this race, it can be very tough. You're headed down. Everybody is waving at you. Stop here, stop here.
And Mario Andretti, again, a green flag stop. Jack Root is there.
It's a nominal pit stop for Mario Andretti, taking fuel and tires. You can see no major changes. I repeat, no changes in the handling.
15 seconds in and out for Mario Andretti as he accelerates on that newly constructed access road coming out of the pits. And at the front of the field, it's now Arie Luyendyk, but perhaps not for long as Nigel Mansell sweeps around. And Nigel Mansell, the rookie, he's the reigning world champion, is in the lead, Bobby.
Paul, you have to notice that was a path on the outside. Nobody has told Nigel Mansell that you can't pass out there, especially when the racetrack is slippery. That was a fantastic pass.
Nigel Mansell is capable of doing a lot of passes that some others may not.
Bobby, when I talked to him earlier this year at his home in Clearwater, I asked him what made him better than the others, and he gave me a couple of evasive answers, and then he said, well, I go into the turns faster than they do, and that was evidence of it right there.
And Nigel Mansell now heads into the pits. He last stopped on the 16th lap. This is lap 56, so he's carried the car a fairly good distance, and Jack Arute awaits his arrival.
The first pit stop of IndyCar competition at the Indianapolis 500 for Nigel Mansell. Trying to slow him down, he locks it up and hits the marks exactly. As we listen, and you watch, no changes on Nigel Mansell's car either. They're going to live with it the longest part of this activity to take on the fuel, and he is off and away in 16.7 seconds.
Jack, this team has really hit the setup when you think about it. Both their cars in and out of the pits with no major changes of any kind.
Mansell moves back to the fight. Arie Luyendyk picks up the lead, but he is due to stop at any second. In fact, he is already on pit road as well. So here is the leader, Arie Luyendyk, and that will give the lead of the race back to Al Unser. Now, Unser last stopped on the 39th lap. This cycle we're seeing are all drivers that stopped on lap number 16. Arie, too, seems satisfied with the car. No obvious changes. Let's go to Jack.
And Paul, they have made a wing adjustment on Arie Luyendyk's car. They are still having problems. And in 15.9 seconds, they changed the front wing and the rear tire pressures, trying to cure the loose condition.
So with those stops, Al Unser picks up the lead of the Indy 500. He's running laps at 200 miles an hour. His son, little Al, currently runs in second place. And Arie Luyendyk came out of the pits running in third. We'll be back.
Welcome back to Sky Sports coverage of the Indianapolis 500, and this is some race, really is. Nigel Mansell putting on a real performance here. Tyler Alexander, I wonder with the maneuver past Mario Andretti, has he signaled that he has come of age in IndyCar circuit racing in this one moment, or is it a bit too early for that?
I think it's a bit too early, but he's certainly doing all the required things. I think he was slipstreaming Mario or drafting him, and managed to pull out and pass him in what looked like a rather interesting and very good maneuvers. So it does appear that he's...
This is Nigel Mansell.
It does appear that he's gaining experience here with every lap, and I can only hope that he continues to do that throughout the race.
What speeds are we doing here, Tyler?
Probably it's on the straightaway, 220 or something, maybe a bit more.
And there he goes. That was typical Mansell, wasn't it?
Yes, it certainly was. I mean, he got himself on the inside, and it looks like Mario's car isn't handling quite as well with a light fuel load. But it's interesting. It's still early on in the race, so there's a long ways to go.
Live pictures again here. Just get us across this jargon. What is pushing?
Well, pushing is an oval track term. On road racing terms, it would be understeering, or when the front of the car has less grip, relative less grip than the rear of the car, and it tends to, in oval racing, it's here. You saw Danny Sullivan's car pushed or understeered out to the wall because the front tires don't have enough grip to make it go around the corner.
Getting loose?
Getting loose is when the rear of the car doesn't have as much grip, relatively speaking, as the front. And that way the back of the car would kind of come around and perhaps get into the wall sooner or oversteer in road racing terms.
And drafting?
Drafting is what you saw Nigel doing. He was tucked in behind Mario. Because the turbulence from the air is reduced in behind the other car, you can gain a little speed, and he pulled out and passed Mario sort of out of the slipstream. You get a big tow from the other car.
Tony Jardine, just before we go back, what about Nigel Mansell here?
I think a fantastic performance because he was back in fourth, he went past Fittipaldi, then he came up on Lyondike with a brilliant move, and then up on Andretti, his teammate, good old Mario, 53 years of age. But he showed the real bull, the real tiger there in him, and he has led the Indianapolis 500. Whatever he's done as a rookie, he's led it. Graham Hill in 66 and Ami Comlo are actually from a rookie start, won the thing. Mansell could still do that yet, but remember, great rivalry between Andretti and teammate Mansell, because in 1980, when Mansell made his Grand Prix debut in Austria, he was running the third spare car, and Mario Andretti ignored the young Nigel Mansell almost totally. Then Mansell actually burnt all the skin off his backside. He had a fuel leak in the car, but he still got it nearly to the finish. It was a brilliant performance. So we'll watch for that rivalry, I think, Richard.
Robbie Gordon, car 41, I believe, leads as we go back live.
It's the man.
So with John in and out, Robbie is next up. And Robbie is on the pit road as he'll head down to A.J. Foyt's pits. And Jack Arute continues to watch.
It is absolutely amazing, Paul, as A.J. Foyt watches first place, then second place, and now Robbie Gordon, your leader, comes in his team car. He takes the water bottle. They are making no major changes on either car. Gordon trying to maintain his composure. Remember, he is the rookie team with John Andretti. And they pull as we watch Paul Tracy. Let's go to Paul.
Now, Paul Tracy makes a stop at the same time as Robbie Gordon, though a little bit longer. Paul Tracy rolls back into the fight, but he's fallen out of the top 10 on this stop. And notice how carefully he rolls through the pits. Now, at this point on the track, they can pick up speed and move back up to racing speed. These stops, again, all under the green. There's Jeff Andretti, the familiar Andretti helmet. After a year of rehabilitation, is back running the Indianapolis 500. And Jeff Brabham, one of the Menard cars, a car that has been troublesome for Jeff this month. He only got 2 laps in the final practice session.
Jeff Brabham, he told me the other day, you know, I'm not doing badly for an unemployed racing driver. He doesn't have a regular ride, but he's running here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and in a few weeks he'll be running for Peugeot at Le Mans. So he's doing the 2 biggest races in the world, even though he doesn't have a regular ride. There's Dominic Dobson leaving the pits in a sister car to last year's winning car.
So now under the green flag, the racing continues on the track, and this man, Scott Goodyear, now picks up the lead. Scott Goodyear at the lead of the Indianapolis 500. We'll return with more of the Indy 500 after this message and a word from our ABC station.
Are you ready for the WWF King of the Ring? It's Monday, June 14th, 7 p.m. only on Sky Sports. Bossa! He was born to be king.
Time now is 6:50.
The first incendiary device went off near Oxford.
We watch the world's weather 24 hours a day to keep you informed.
Time now, it's 10 past 10.
And how is Sky Television this morning?
Well, the good thing about a 24-hour news service is that you don't have to wait until 9 or 10. You can turn on any hour.
Comprehensive sports coverage is crucial. We like to think we've got a good team here, and it shows.
The time now is 3:15.
Our point, a Sky exclusive.
No problem, the crew are on the way.
Wanted arson, a purely civilian target.
Ein Abandonment, Sky News, Sarajevo.
Time now is 6:15.
Tim Marshall, Sky News, Paris.
The time now is 9:24.
They are the ship's first line of defense, and they can all be equipped with weapons.
I was actually able to tell the meeting because of the flash from Sky News. Sky News here.
Yeah.
Great movie channels, 9 movies a night. And next week, catch up with Lenny Henry, revealing his true identity. Live on the edge with Meryl Streep. Robin Williams will be driving you crazy in Cadillac Man. And for Jack Nicholson, it's A Dog's Life in 5 easy pieces. On Friday, Cher is all at sea in Mermaids, and Mia Farrow is skybound and disappearing fast in Woody Allen's Alice. Saturday night blasts off with Iron Eagle 3. takes you for a shocking trip up Jacob's Ladder and gives you Burt Reynolds in control of Sharky's machine. On Sunday, the arrow hits the spot in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Joe Mantegna gets involved in a case of homicide. Wesley Snipes gets involved in a case of jungle fever. And Kevin Kline and Sally Field, well, they just get involved. Good, clean fun and just a phone call away. Call now on 0506 460000.
Welcome back to the Indianapolis 500. You're looking at the race leader there, or we were, Nigel Mansell, who has risen to the greatest challenge of his life this afternoon in quite spectacular fashion. Tyler Alexander, Tony Jardine, our guests in the studio here. Tyler, has what Mansell has done so far surprised you?
No, I don't think it's actually surprised me, because really he should be able to do that. He's in a very good car with a very good team. And he's a race driver. That's what he does. And he's doing a good job. He looks like he's picking up the rhythm of the place. And he's going very well.
He's loving it. Let's go back to the States.
Back live in Indianapolis, you look down from the Goodyear blimp Spirit. The captain is Aaron Jenkins. By the way, the blimp is traveling at 32 miles an hour, while Nigel Mansell, the leader just below us there, has been traveling laps at 210.5 miles an hour. He is chased by his teammate Mario Andretti. Take a look at the Valvoline driver summary. Started in 8th place, now 1st. The record number of leaders in the Indianapolis 500 was set in 1980 with 10 different leaders. We're already there, and we're not even to the halfway point, Sam.
Well, I think what set up the situation, as you see the blimp there, with a staggered first series of pit stops. So half the field, in effect, stopped early, and the other half waited. And as the race is shaken out, it's starting to form up now to an understandable thing. But certainly in this last, in the first quarter of the race, it's very confusing.
So Nigel Mansell at the front of the field. Mario, then Emerson Fittipaldi. 4th is Teo Fabi. Ari Luyendyk is 5th. Al Unser, followed by his son. 6th and 7th. Robbie Gordon is now in 8th. 9th is John Andretti, and 10th is Scott Brayton.
You are riding there with Nigel Mansell.
We ride with Nigel Mansell. We talked to him. Gary Gerald had an opportunity to ask him, when you're in the cockpit, are you aware of this giant crowd that surrounds the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? What are your concerns during the race itself?
I think the biggest thing is that I've never raced on an oval before. I mean, I tried at Phoenix, but didn't quite get there. So, I mean, it's going to be very difficult, and this is not just an oval, this is the fastest oval, the super speedway. I've just got to keep an open mind. I think I want to stay out of trouble. I hope that the car is reliable, and, you know, I've never gone more than 200 miles in my racing career. So to do 500 miles is going to be a new experience as well. To be in the car over 3 hours, probably, is definitely going to be another new experience. I mean, I'm going to be doing a lot of firsts this weekend, and I just hope I can come through it all and you know, draw on the experience and gain a lot of strength and go on from there.
So Nigel points to his greatest concern as he passed over the 200-mile mark, or will pass over it here 4 laps ahead. That'll be the longest distance he has ever driven, so he will pass into unknown territory. So far, he has handled these pit stops very well.
Notice how little he has to move the steering wheel as he goes through the turns. That's the indication that the balance of the car, front to rear, is perfect. Remember how fast the steering is on these cars. If it was a passenger car, you'd have to take 2 or 3 turns on the wheel to get through a turn. Not these. The steering is very fast, very responsive.
You know, Sam, one of the things I notice about Nigel and Mario's cars both is they seem to be handling better, or more consistently better, than all the other cars in the race today.
There is no contest at the front of the field as we look through the running order at the conclusion of the 76th lap. Everything runs static down through the top 10. We've reached that point in the race where the race tends to settle just a bit.
It's really the Newman-Haas team placing 1st and 2nd. with pursuit by the Penske team. These are the most powerful teams in IndyCar auto racing at this point, and right now they're occupying the first 3 positions in this race.
The last time the team cars finished first and second was in 1962. Bob Wilkie's leader car team. Roger Ward winning and Len Sutton in second. Or when Len Sutton pulled in at the end of the race, his throttle fell off. And A.J. Watson, his crew chief, said, well, they're only supposed to go 500 miles anyway.
Now you can really see the difference. Watch Mansell back there working on his prey right in front of him. But watch how he's been doing this stuff. He went across the short chute, got a run, passed him coming off in 2, and right down the long back straightaway with an easy pass, Paul.
Remember, Danny Sullivan pushed up into the wall, and there was contact. Now he is with Jerry Punch.
Danny, a short day for you and a close call. What happened out there?
Well, we're not really sure right now. We might have found something that was a problem, that maybe a piece broke, but just going into 3, I just radioed in and said I've got a lot more push than I've had, and we had just put more front wing in it and tried some stuff to get less push. And part of the way around 3, I just had no more steering. I mean, in terms of that the wheels weren't turning the car. I mean, I had plenty of steering in my steering wheel, but didn't change direction and just went straight up and got up in the gray and couldn't turn the car at all and hit the fence coming off of 3. And so hopefully we found what it is. But those are kind of the ones you walk away from going, boy, I really wish I knew what happened.
Let me show you how close a call Danny Sullivan had. Look at his race car here. This spot right here is the lower A-frame from the right side of the car that's come all the way through the tub, underneath his knees, and pierced through the left side, extending out. Danny had that close a call with the wall, guys.
Of course, all of these cars very carefully designed to account for safety. Nigel Mansell still leads, chased by Mario Andretti, but you see now that Fittipaldi is closing in, trying to catch Andretti. For the moment, they have a separation between them. That's the 76 car, Tony Bettenhausen at the wheel. 10 different leaders in the Indianapolis 500 thus far, as we've just passed over the 200-mile mark. So Nigel Mansell is an unknown territory. Back at the Indianapolis 500, Emerson Fittipaldi running in 3rd place. Heads for the pits. It's anticipated that the leaders will be in shortly. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Time world champion in Formula One, Emerson Fittipaldi, who 10 years ago came to IndyCars in for what should be routine service here. There was a bit of concern over the oil pump, but now we understand from the crew that it is routine use, not a concern. Emerson is like the setup on the car. We've got him in 15.9 seconds on this stop.
A bit of a stutter for Fittipaldi. He comes out conscious. Here is Teo Fabi, who was running right behind the leaders, now has fallen to 6th place as he came in for this stop. But he's been running a very consistent race thus far. Certainly not out of the fight.
And for the Jim Hall team, which in the 70s won 2 Indy 500. So here's a team with a lot of experience.
Report on the weather, Sam and Paul. Everything is really looking good. We can look a long ways to the west. It doesn't look any better or any worse than the start of the race. I'd say it's all go.
Well, a little higher up than you are, Aaron Jenkins, the captain of the Goodyear Blimp Spirit, is looking more to the west and says that there may be rain at about 1 o'clock Indianapolis time. It's about 12:14 in Indianapolis right now. Only one driver will savor the milk here in Victory Lane today, but next Sunday there will be plenty for all in the Dairy State from Wisconsin. IndyCar's best meet again at the Miller Genuine Draft 200, live at 1 o'clock Eastern here on ABC Sports. And Mario Andretti, 2nd place, rolling down the pit road as the yellow comes out once again, and what an advantage for both Nigel and for Mario. Let's go to Jack.
This could be costly for Mario Andretti. They're going to continue. Now, many drivers said that if they had a yellow come out, they would go through the pit lane. Remember, they closed pit lane. He may have snuck in and crossed the line before he crossed that line. If he had crossed the line and the yellow had come out, he would have been in deep trouble, but he made it in time. He is off and away.
Yes, the yellow appeared to flash on just after he passed over the start-finish line in the pits, honoring the speed limit. As other cars now take an opportunity to come in. Jim Crawford is in. his routine service on that. So Crawford is now in and out. So Nigel Mansell should be expected any time now. He's completed the 89th lap, expected, of course, after they open the pits, which are now closed. Nigel begins to slow and get the field in tow behind him.
Well, Paul, he's really got to slow down, too. He looks like the old days of when we had the number system out here to slow the cars down.
He may be slow now, but he did 200 autographs in 1 hour at a autograph session down in Australia earlier this year. Here's Gary Bettenhausen on board with a man who would desperately like to succeed at this race, a whole family committed to the idea of winning the Indianapolis 500. His dad killed here in 1960 in a practice run, and Gary Bettenhausen has really carried the torch for that family ever since.
The cause of the yellow was the 60 car, Jim Crawford, who caused the first yellow, spun and continued. Jim Crawford did it again. They're averaging 173 miles an hour to this point.
The Indianapolis 500. Now we're looking at Nigel Mansell in the pit there. We're on a yellow flag at the moment. He just missed his pit stop, was pushed back into position, Tyler. Any penalty for that?
Well, I don't believe so. In the past, as long as you were no more than 1 pit away from yours, you were allowed to pull the car back. And he was sort of opposite his pit.
This is it. He's moving at some pace here.
Yes, and he's appeared to have done the sort of classic thing that's possible there. A lot of people are stopping.
Missed his pit?
Missed his pit, going a bit too fast, and just missed it. It's hard to tell whether he's actually stalled the engine or not, and perhaps in a shot that we see in a minute here, we can tell whether they have to restart it or not.
Well, this is Mansell leaving the pit now live.
No, he's coming in because there's the tower.
Oh, he's coming in.
Yep.
Yes, it is. You're right. You're right.
Just on the left, and he's going a little bit too quick.
We've seen him do that before, Tony, haven't we? Slip into reverse and then get disqualified.
Well, shades of Portugal. He won't like to be reminded about that. And, of course, that's when the wheel came off as well, and that was at a very poignant moment in the race. So he wouldn't like to be reminded, but you can just see how much pit activity there is there for a driver coming down in pit lane. It's really crowded, and it's easy for you to miss your slot.
Okay, I think we're about to go again. Let's go back to the States.
And you know, Paul, another thing, we think Fabi Guerrero and Emo lost a lap on them by pitting at the wrong time. Pit stop came wrong.
So running under the yellow, Mario Andretti has the lead of the race. Al Unser Jr. is in second place. Or Al Unser is in second place. Junior is in third. And most of the top of the field have completed their stops. Coming up later today on ABC Sports is one of golf's most entertaining events. Flag to come out again. Mario Andretti has the field in tow as the leader of the race. You ride with him. He is followed by Al Unser, then Unser Jr., then Ari Luyendyk. In fifth place is Paul Tracy, then Scott Brayton, then Nigel Mansell has fallen to seventh. Scott Goodyear is eighth, and John Andretti is ninth.
So that mistake means Mansell is going to have to do some passing here. He's proved he can do that, but it's an exciting situation with Mario ahead and Nigel poised to pick up speed.
Back up to speed once again as Mario Andretti down on the inside looks for Racy Room coming up through the pack in this field. The closest car in pursuit will be the 80 car of Al Unser, that red and white car. Mario comes past Bobby Unser.
Yeah, out here they're still running it very low on the racetrack, Paul. The track is still slippery. We expect the oil and the neckwoods to just start soaking in before too long.
And when it soaks in, Bobby, does that mean that now it will be better and they can go back and run down on it?
Yeah, they certainly will, Paul. To be able to use more of the track, get a better arc through the track instead of such a conservative line. The speeds in the race, racing speeds, have been around 200 to 201 miles an hour. That's a far cry from the 214 we started with.
You know, the leading 2 drivers at this point, and you see Mario, here's a pass by Little Al.
Jr. as he moves around Ari Leyendijk as they battle for 3rd. And Al Unser is in position now. So Ari Leyendijk slides back. He was ahead of Little Al for a moment there, and then Al took him right back.
It's the Andretti's versus the Unsers with Mansell part of the mix.
Al Unser Jr. The view backwards now over his shoulder. Eddie Cheever just ahead of him. And here is the Chevrolet onboard telemetry from this car. And Paul Tracy against the wall. The yellow comes out again. Paul Tracy into the wall. The rest of the field coming by safely. So now that change in the groove, the change of the track that Bobby Unser mentioned, is beginning to tell. Paul Tracy moving in the cockpit, takes the steering wheel off, appears to be okay. Some of the padding in the cockpit, Bobby?
Well, Paul, the track is slippery. That's what we've been saying, and obviously that's what we're going to find out happened to Paul Tracy. There's Roger Penske talking to him now, trying to figure out what went wrong so he can tell Emo.
So as Paul Tracy climbs out of the car, we are under yellow again. 95 laps are complete. We're approaching the halfway point. We'll return after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Tracy as he got into the wall. One report is that he may have been very close to another car trying to get under him at the time. There may be that other car, the 22 car of Scott Brayton, though it doesn't tell in this particular view whether or not that was the issue.
Paul, compare these accidents with last year when the spin started down on the apron and the angle with which the cars hit the wall was much steeper than this. You see, Paul Tracy really only glances the wall the way Al Unser Jr. did a couple of years ago when he was racing Emerson Fittipaldi for the lead down in turn 3. He got away with that one too. I think the track is much safer, but it's much tougher to pass on.
Let's go to the Penske pits, Gary Gerald.
Roger Penske coming down. You have a chance to talk to Paul, any indication what the problem was?
Yeah, he told me on the radio, he said he was down under Scott Brayton, and Scott moved over on him. He had to cut down, I guess, on the shoulder and lost control of the car. I haven't been able to see it on television, but I'm sure you can see it there.
Is there any indication, are the changes in the track making it tougher for your drivers this year?
No, I think everyone's really looking out for each other. They're giving each other the room they need. You can see it in the lap times. We're running a 2:05 to 2:09 is a real good lap time. So basically the track has slowed everybody down, but it's the same for everybody out there.
Is Emerson happy?
Yeah, right now, yeah, he was running 2:09 there that last segment. It was good and bad luck in that accident because it put Emerson back around because we got caught on that yellow when he came in, and then it went yellow right after that.
But at least better than last year when both of your cars went out at the same time. Thank you, Roger.
Thanks.
Let's go to Jack.
Well, Gary, don't expect to see Ari Leyendijk being too racy on this restart. The Ganassi crew has radioed to him to go to full lean. They're beginning to be a little bit concerned about having enough fuel to go the distance. So he is going to back off the throttle for a while and wait this one out.
Under this yellow, Fittipaldi comes in. They top off on fuel. Fittipaldi is the leader of that group, 1 lap behind, running in 10th place. The leader under yellow is Mario, followed by Al Unser, then Al Unser Jr., then Ari Leyendijk. The top 4 are former winners at Indianapolis.
Back here watching the Indianapolis 500 live here on Sky Sports. Quite a race so far for Nigel Mansell. We're approaching the halfway mark, 100 laps, and we're beginning to hear, Tyler, Alexander, some speculation about the weather. What happens if it rains from this point onwards?
Well, once they've completed just over half distance, 101 laps, if it rains after that, they stop the race because they don't run in the rain, and they can declare that a race. If it's not possible to dry the track and restart the race before the end of safe daylight limits for the day, they can declare that that is the race. And so the race could be 102 laps if it rained.
If it rained heavily and they couldn't restart. If it's a shower, they can...
If it's just a shower or something, they could dry the track. They have some equipment to dry the track. And the weather itself could help to dry the track. As we saw earlier from the flags and things, it's quite windy. So it is conceivable that the track could dry itself and they could restart the race, but they don't have to.
We're on a yellow flag here again. Now, for people who may have been joining us, Tyler, throughout the course of the afternoon, can you explain once again what is happening here?
Well, Paul Tracy has had a mishap trying to pass another car and gone into the wall. So the pace car is out, the yellow flag is out, which is slowing all the cars down, and it appears that they're actually going through the part of the pit road at one end of the racetrack, which is where Tracy has crashed, and it showed earlier there was a lot of oil or liquid of some kind on the track. So the cars are using part of the pit road, so they don't pick anything up while the safety crew cleans up the racetrack and gets it back in shape to hopefully start racing again soon.
Hearing that Nigel Mansell has apparently just radioed into his pits inquiring what happens when you have to go to the bathroom. I mean, this is longer and further than Mansell's ever had to go, of course, isn't it? This is new territory. That's quite a problem, isn't it?
Well, I guess if he doesn't say anything, if he doesn't tell, I'm sure no one will notice.
Tyler Alexander, incidentally, if you have joined us, used to run Indy cars and has been very much involved in this race down the years. Fuel spillage at the back here?
It's possible, yes, or they're just being careful. It's hard to say what's going on. Fortunately, it does look like there's some fuel there because they're throwing some water on, which disperses the methanol fuel, which is what the cars use. And it does work quite well. It makes a bit of a mess, but it does disperse the methanol. And
back to Mansell, we heard earlier when we were on a yellow flag lap, and all these laps come off the total, of course, don't they?
Yes, they do.
I mean, he was inquiring at that stage, where's the tee? He's obviously enjoying himself, isn't he, in the whole experience of the Indianapolis 500.
It certainly seems like he is. I mean, he's running well. The team is quite good. He's made one small mistake there all day, but he's not that far behind. As long as he's on the same lap, he appears to be picking the pace up and dealing with the traffic and things, and I just hope he continues to do that. He's had a bit of a problem there in the pits, but he could recover from that. It's not that serious.
That's A.J. Foyt, isn't it, who won this race 4 times?
A.J. Foyt and Mike Cranifus from Fords. Having a heart-to-heart conversation.
You've crossed swords with, of course, down the years. The Indianapolis 500 live on Sky Sports this afternoon. Quite a race it's turning out to be for Nigel Mansell. We're approaching the halfway stage as we go back to the United States.
We're back live at Indianapolis, the 77th 500, the Valvoline race summary. Mario Andretti is the leader. We have had 10 different leaders matching the record set in 1980. In second place, it's Al Unser, followed by Unser Jr. out of the race. Danny Sullivan, who hit the wall. Nelson Piquet had his engine let go. Stan Fox is out of the race. And Paul Tracy, of course, brushed the wall, bringing out the yellow. More than brushed it, he hit it. So now we should be coming back to a green flag as they come down the backstretch. This is the running order after 100 laps. And Mario Andretti has completed. Look at Al Unser as he comes up alongside of Mario.
Incredible to see Mario Andretti and Al Unser Sr. racing each other again. These are the two most experienced drivers in the race, 27, 28 years respectively. It's almost as if it was the early 1970s all over again.
Raul Boisel is right there with the leaders, though he is a lap behind the race itself. Pace car heads for the pit road. Dwayne Sweeney's green flag signaled to Mario Andretti.
Boy, did Mario make the most of that restart. He accelerated hard back in turn 3, which you're perfectly entitled to do. Everyone else was asleep.
Look at the spacing, Bobby Unser.
Yes, he's coming through here down to the rumble strips, right back out, and again, he looks like he's the best Henry car on the track. Between he and Mansell, I think it's a toss-up, Paul.
Bobby, the wind has come up in the last few minutes. How does the sky look to you there? We're past half distance, of course. It is an official race.
Sam, the wind isn't bad over here. It hasn't changed probably since the race started. Of course, remember, the wind, this is a large track. It's different in different places around the track, but it's good here.
Captain Aaron Jenkins on the Goodyear blimp says on their radar there is no sign of rain at the moment, though some of the teams are beginning to become concerned about that. Let's get an update on Mario from Jack Arute.
Well, that's one of the teams that is concerned. They radioed in, and Ed Nathman told Mario Andretti during that last caution, we are watching the weather. If it begins to change, we will change the setup. He said, let's leave it the way it is right now, but if it does change, look for major changes on your lead car.
On board second place, Al Unser Jr., 9 seconds behind the leader, Mario. And Mario, as we watch Brayton and Lyondike, this is a battle for third. Brayton sits in third at the moment. Mario has passed Wilbur Shaw, the all-time lap leader, is now ranking fourth as he continues to roll up laps in the lead.
Well, you can watch as the cars come out of that turn we just saw there at the different grooves that they take. Just look at the difference between the guys who run out where it's black, the guys that are down where it's gray.
How much has it changed since the start of this race, Bobby?
Oh, it's probably changed, I would say, at least 4 times already, Paul. I can see tracks way out into the gray, and most of it now they're back to the bottom of the racetrack. Pretty much of a normal groove.
And that's where being a veteran pays off here. Mario Andretti, the most experienced driver, starting this race today. Nigel is now closing in on Arie Luyendyk, making it a 3-way battle for third. Scott Brayton and that brightly colored number 22 car currently occupies it. The 3 participants just flashed past one of the wall-mounted cameras here. Here they come again.
Experience is really paying off. The first 3 drivers have all been in this race more than 10 times. They've been through this sort of thing before, and they are veterans of the configuration of the track before that inner strip was paved, and now for this year unpaved. So they're racing on a track that was familiar to them from a couple of years before. Nigel Mansell running a very high groove right
here comes Luyendyk. Luyendyk very much reminiscent of his pass of Bobby Rahal to win the Indy 500. Luyendyk just dusted young Brayton off, and now here comes Nigel Mansell. So both of them passed just that quick, and as Bobby Unser suggested, on the entry to the corner.
And he slid clear out into the gray, Paul. I don't know if we all got that or not, but Luyendyk went down there and he slid right out of the gray, had to soft pedal it, and it looked like he was going to get past again in the short chute for a little while there.
So a change at the top of the order, and very quickly. Let's update on Luyendyk, Jack.
Paul, the radio went out to Luyendyk. We're okay on fuel. Turn it back and go for it.
Arie Luyendyk was reporting earlier, Jack Arute, that he was having trouble when running in traffic. Have they been able to correct that yet?
They are still chasing that problem, Paul, but so far they've made minor adjustments. They don't want to do too much because, as Bobby Unser has said, the track continues to change.
Riding with the leader, Mario Andretti now. His fastest lap thus far at 213 miles an hour. His last lap at 209. You can see the skies have turned leaden overhead. But still, no report from the blimp of a hint of rain.
Weather from our position, Paul, still looks good. I don't see any problem. I can't see anything getting any darker over here. It's kind of light off to the west, and that's what we want.
Mario Andretti out by the pool at the Speedway Motel the other day, wearing his reading glasses in public for the first time. I think he's realized that it's, after his Phoenix win, it's okay to be old now, as long as you're still fast. Demonstrably, he is.
Mansell still chases Luyendyk. Unser Jr. separates them from the leader. And now, look at this game of cat and mouse as Mansell and Luyendyk battle going into turn 1 and coming toward Bobby.
Now remember, Mansell's car's not been bothered in the wind. We've watched him race, we've watched him up close to people. He's moving up on Luyendyk right now, so I don't think the air disturbance is going to bother him, but Luyendyk will worry about it, Paul.
Bobby, Mansell seems to be running an awfully high line off these turns. The latter part of the turn, he's pushing right into the gray stuff. That's right underneath you.
As I said just a bit ago, Sam, Mansell's car is handling, and the racetrack has gone back to more of a normal now, which means that the fluids that the guys have lost, oil, water, and etc., is soaking in. And the track's really looking like it did more towards the start of the race now.
Paul Tracy hit the wall earlier. Now he's with Jerry Punch.
And he hit it awfully hard, Paul. Paul, a tough afternoon for you. What happened?
Well, we were out there running pretty good, and I was trying to get by Brayton, and we went side by side down the straight and went into 3 together, and he clipped my front wheel with his back tire, and just it knocked the front wheel out of alignment and went straight up in the wall. I think for the crew and all the sponsors, Marble Racing, it's a tough day. We were running good, and we'll be back at Milwaukee.
You hit awfully hard. You got some marks on the uniform here. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I got some marks, and I'd say the biggest thing that's hurt is my ego. So we'll be back next week, and we've been out testing Milwaukee, and I think we're ready to go there.
Paul Tracy.
Of course, ABC Sports will be there, too. The Miller Genuine Draft 200 next week at Milwaukee on the famous Milwaukee Mile. You got a glimpse there, Bobby Unser, of how the two did get together. And I guess my question, Bobby, would be, what about Brayton's car?
Well, it was in the rear. The rears on these cars are a whole lot stronger than the front. Paul Tracy got touched with Brayton by where his car's really weak. And it only takes just a fraction. Like Danny Sullivan was thinking that something happened to his. It only takes a fraction to throw them out at more than 200 miles an hour. They just zapple right into the walls.
Back watching the battle for third place, Ari Leyendijk is just ahead of Nigel Mansell as you ride with Nigel. When you see the in-car like this, condensation you see is not rain, not moisture from the air. More often than not, it's a blowback from the car in front of them. Might be a speck of oil or something as they run up through the gears. So as yet, no rain that is a real concern. The second place runner is Al Unser Jr. There is a concern in that pit for how many tires he will need before the end of the race, Gary Gerald.
Was a concern, Paul. The key word now, there is no longer a concern. You see this? A fresh, thicker, brand new tires have just been rolled out. They got one more set from Goodyear. They've got 3 fresh sets now ready to go. They're not scrubbed. That'll give them maximum adhesion. Rick Gallis is very happy that they just got this stack of tires.
But earlier there is Nigel Mansell as he gets Ari Leyendijk for third place. And now Mansell has an opportunity to look ahead to Al Unser Jr. That's slower traffic just ahead. And Nigel takes care of it with no problem whatsoever.
Well, you know, seeing him carve up the field like this, you'd think he's kind of a hot-headed guy, but he really isn't. He's extremely deliberate personally. He puts his gloves in one place, his equipment bag in another place in the truck. Everything has to be in order so that his mind is organized so that he can do this kind of thing out on the racetrack.
Sam, it's amazing how much I've watched him grow up or learn or get smarter during the course of this race, and this race is only a little bit more than halfway old. The guy is capable of learning faster than anybody I've seen in a long time.
Well, Bobby, we understood that in comparison with Alain Prost, who has taken over Nigel's seat on the Williams team in Formula One, Patrick Head, the engineer there, offered this comparison. He said, Nigel is very accommodating. He'll put up with anything. Whereas Prost is very finicky and has to everything just a certain way. And Nigel can put up with anything.
As we ride with Nigel now, we can go back and take a look. This was a few laps ago. That's Ari Leyendijk just in front. And this is the pass as both of them looking ahead to slower traffic.
See, when Ari threw that block on Nigel, it slowed him up going in. And that's why Nigel, who saw what happened, was able to pick him up coming out of the turn. A neat bit of driving by both men.
Here it is again, different view.
And if you notice, Paul, that's right across the short chute. Like we said, that probably would happen earlier. Slow down going into the turn, accelerate across the short chute, and that's exactly how he got that one done.
So Nigel lost his Ari Leyendijk lost his momentum, and Nigel took advantage of it. Nigel seems very conscious of momentum and keeping your speed up on this giant speedway, 2.5 miles around.
Well, also momentum in terms of his career. Here he is, the defending world champion. Here we're looking at the
this is the radar, the weather radar on board the blimp.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't know what direction it's pointed, but we assume it is pointed to the west, and all you can see is ground clutter. So no measurable radar measurable rain from the blimp. So for the time being, we're safe here, Bobby.
Paul, I'd just like to report that your weatherman at turn 2 has been right so far. We still can't see any rain, and it looks lighter.
I think you've got a future, Bobby.
So Bobby Unser doubles as a weatherman in his position in turn 2. We'll return with more of the Indy 500 after this message and a word from our ABC station.
We're watching the Indianapolis 500 and a rare old tussle here between Al Unser Jr. and Nigel Mansell for second place. Before we talk about that, Tyler Alexander, during that break here, you were just warning, wish he could hear you, Mansell against a little bit of overconfidence, perhaps?
Well, it looked like he was starting to get a little bit aggressive and running down below the white line there. I don't know, his car is working very well. Maybe he can get away with it, but he wasn't doing that earlier in the race, so he's going rather well. I just hope he doesn't take any unnecessary chances.
Tony, briefly, isn't there a history to this one, Unser and Mansell?
Yeah, a little bit of stick between them. First of all, Al Unser Jr. was hoping to get in Grand Prix this year for '93, but he reckoned he couldn't trust anybody in Grand Prix racing. And at Long Beach, which was the last race around the street circuit there was a great tussle and dice between last year's Indy 500 winner, Al Unser, who you're looking at, and Mansell. Mansell was very much under the weather. He was a pole sitter, but Mansell did classic Formula One stuff and legitimately blocked him all the way around for 20 or so laps. Unser had made so many attempts to get past him, he finally did a do-or-die effort, but ended up in the wall, for which he blamed Mansell, and he said he'd never been blocked so much in his life. And Al Unser Jr. said, what comes around, so let's see what happens here.
Let's keep our eyes on it as we go back to our colleagues at ABC.
Cruise gear and a passing gear or racing gear.
Look at the disparity between the straightaway speed of 230 mile an hour and the turn speed of down here at 190 and change. It's been years since we've seen the drivers back off in the turns. They've been taking the turns flat out. Not so this year.
And Sam, today we actually get down in the turn where we are in turn 2. We can hear them backing up. We can actually hear them feathering some of the engine.
Nigel closing to the inside, Bobby, as he tries to get alongside Little Al, but the slower traffic prevents that from happening. Little Al used it very well.
That's one of those deals where the camera's going out backward, but believe me, the traffic is what got him right there.
Little Al, of course, highly motivated. It's very much in his mind as you see Nigel rip past a couple of slower cars, and we ride with Nigel, seeing Little Al right ahead of him there. Little Al very motivated by the idea that the last person to win back-to-back Indy 500s was his dad back in 1970 and 71. He alone, of course, in the race this year as the defending champion has the opportunity to do that.
Keeping track of other drivers in the field. Eddie Cheever now runs 18th. He was part of that drama on the last day of qualifying here that pushed Bobby Rahal out of the field. And Lynn St. James, last year's Rookie of the Year, now runs in 20th position.
Remember that these two drivers tangled at Long Beach just a few weeks ago. So Nigel, that was a case of Little Al trying to pass Nigel, but I think Nigel knows that this is a man not to be fooled with, especially when you're taking turns at almost 200 miles an hour.
And Sam, these guys are professionals. Grudges don't go to the racetracks. They get a bit mad at each other off the tracks and when they happen, but it'll never happen here by these two guys.
Continuing to watch the battle for second place, Unser Jr. and Nigel Mansell, the defending champion and the reigning world champion.
And Paul, as I watch them going through by us, I think that it's
Roberto Guerrero in trouble in the pits. He was in and out for a stop. He was running in 5th place and stalled. Crew member Falls trying to get him going again. He appears to be okay, and he's still not up to speed. Remember when this cost Roberto Guerrero the Indy 500?
It looks like it's the same type of problem. It looks like he doesn't have a clutch, Paul. And if you don't have one, you can't put the clutch in, rev the engine up, get turbo pressure, and then take off. And that's the reason you see him taking off as slow as he is.
Nigel Mansell again looking for position on Al Unser Jr. Let's go to Jack.
Paul, look for a minor wing adjustment change during this stop for Nigel Mansell. He says he wants a half turn taken out of the wing. He will be coming in approximately 2 laps. His teammate Mario Andretti likewise will be pitting within that window. He says he wants no changes.
You know, as I watch Little Al and Mansell running right there on the screen, Paul, it reminds me of two guys that are really not going to make a big, super issue out of second place right now, because I think they're both in their cruise gears, and they're just letting it go like that. If Mansell wanted to go by, he would shift the gear. Little Al had enough time. Here comes Little Al in now, but he would shift his gears and go faster too.
So Al Unser Jr. on the pit road from second place, making his stop. He rolls in. We watch for changes on the car. Fuel rolls in. Nobody's touched a wing yet. Front wings remain in position. And it doesn't look like they're going to do anything to the rear either. They clear the coolers on the front of the car, make sure that no wax paper or debris has gotten in there that might affect the cooling of the car and cause it to overheat. And we have yellow. As Mario Andretti comes in, 2 cars together on the track. The first time we've had contact between 2 today, the yellow flag comes out.
Jeff Andretti on the right. In that, we're going to see him on the left here. who, of course, had that terrible accident here last year. So we're very concerned about Jeff Andretti. He was in a big accident here last year. This is his first race, having spent a year in rehabilitation.
The other car appears to be Roberto Guerrero, who, remember, was just in the pits. And that's Roberto being helped out of the car. Mario Andretti, the leader of the race, in and out just as the yellow came on. So again, Mario picks an advantage of the yellow light. And we are under yellow at Indianapolis. This time an accident involving Roberto Guerrero and Jeff Andretti.
Welcome back to the Indianapolis 500 live here on Sky Sports. We're in the company of Tyler Alexander and Tony Jardine. Tyler's run both Indy and Formula One cars in his time. Tony, a PR consultant who's worked with Nigel Mansell for the best part of the last 10 years. And hasn't he gone well so far today, Nigel Mansell? Now, we're in a yellow. See, I'm getting the jargon.
Yes,
Tyler.
yes.
We're in a yellow at Indianapolis. So, again, an opportunity for those who need a tyre change or fuel. And Mansell had just called, hadn't he, to get in and...
Yes, it looked like Mario was very lucky again and stopped just as the yellow happened. They closed the pit road, so Nigel would have to queue up behind the pace car and then come in for some changes. And he had asked for them to change the front wing angle, which is something that they can do.
Black flag here for Andretti. Stop-go penalty for Mario Andretti, Tyler. Do we know why?
No, they haven't said a word. They've just shown it there. It's...
Mansell in the pits.
Yes, in and out.
On the way out, so... Now Andretti is black flagged.
Yes, he is. It'd be nice if they'd tell us why.
We'll find out. I was just wondering if you might care to speculate at this.
No, it was hard to tell. I mean, it looked like he made a routine pit stop, unless the yellow came out before he crossed the start-finish line, which meant he should have gone on through the pits and out and joined the queue with the other people. But it looked like he'd stopped before that, so it's hard to say until they give us some more information.
It really is raw racing, this, isn't it? Apparently he did go into the pits too early. That's the reason.
Well, it looks like he was, the timing was a bit wrong, perhaps, but maybe they'll give us some more information.
He's your man, of course, isn't he? Having been so much involved with him in the late 80s at this race, that's who you'd like to see win it?
Oh, I definitely would, yes. No question about that.
Now, this is why we're on the yellow. This is the crash, Tony, here.
Yeah, this is very unfortunate for Roberto Guerrero, who's just come out of the pits. He'd had a problem, we think, the American commentator said, with his clutch. Don't forget, poor Roberto Guerrero, who has the record for the fastest one lap in qualifying at Indianapolis. It's something like 233 miles per hour. He got pole last year, and then he went off on the warm-up lap when the very low temperatures, the tyres weren't up to temperature, and now he's had a clash with poor Jeff Andretti. And Jeff is the younger son of Mario, who's leading, and Michael Andretti, who's driving for McLaren now in Grand Prix racing, is there, so he'll obviously be giving comfort and solace to his younger brother. But he's just got over a year in hospital and recuperating over two badly smashed legs after the big accident in Indy last year. So a lot of concern for poor young Jeff. And you saw he was taken away on a stretcher. I think his legs are okay, but he's probably had a little bit of a jarring in that accident.
Tyler, a word or two about Mansell calling for the spoiler to be tweaked just a touch. Well, why? And
well, obviously he's not entirely happy with the handling of his car, and he wants the front wing adjusted, which they can do during a tire stop or pit stop, as the case may be. And they can make a small adjustment to the front wing, which will change the balance of the car. And depending on what he wanted, they would change maybe one front wing, perhaps in the amount of about 1 millimeter of angle.
OK, we're at the Indianapolis 500 live. Short break. Back in a moment or so. Welcome back to the Indianapolis 500 live on Sky Sports, and quite a race it's proving to be as well. Tyler, might you care to speculate on where Nigel Mansell will be when we get back under the green flag?
Well, it's conceivable he's actually leading the race. They haven't really given us an update after the pit stops, and there's a lot of shuffling around because of people stopping and exactly when they're stopping. It's possible he's actually leading the race. He was running second, actually, because Unser Jr. had stopped. So it's conceivable that he's actually leading the race now, but we'll have to wait to see and get an update from the positions after the pit stops.
Will his blood be rushing just a little bit at this stage, Tony?
It will be a little bit, and that's why there is some concern, and I share Tyler's concern about him not getting over-exuberant and overconfident, because he hasn't gone this distance before, and he's in the groove very, very nicely, but he's got to stay there. The one little bit of pleasure I got there with the dice with Alonso, he was staying there quite nicely. He wasn't trying to go round him on the outside or anything. He's got to be there to finish, and he's got to be around for that last quarter of the race when it's down to the shootout, the last few pit stops, the last bit of fuel, the last set of tyres. He's got to be thereabouts to go for it, and that's when his racecraft could really make the difference. You know, a win is still possible for Britain.
Okay, Tyler, we understand that Andretti's been black flagged because he should have gone straight through the pits when the yellow flag had come out. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it looks that way, because earlier when Mario had stopped on a yellow light condition, he was past the start-finish line when the yellow light came on, so therefore he was allowed to stop in his pit. It appears that this time he was not past the start-finish line, and the pit is then declared closed, and he was meant to go straight through and around again like everyone else is required to do. So the timing was obviously off by a few hundred meters or something when he came into the pit road. At least that's what appears to have happened.
Okay, it's getting very, very interesting. Let's go back to rejoin our colleagues at ABC.
Lyondike on the pit road, as Jack suggested, coming in, going to top off. They should be close to the end of a cleanup, but there is still a great deal of oil dry out on the racetrack from the Andretti car. And let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, this is what we call pit tactics and strategies. They've changed the wing. They've made a major adjustment on the wing, going down on the wingtips. They have taken on fuel. Their thinking is now they can extend their fuel window. This becomes so very important with the ever-changing track conditions and the fact that track position has become so crucial here in the late stages of the race.
You get a glimpse there of Scott Goodyear as he came in and out as well with Arie Luyendyk, and Arie went into the pits as the leader with Scott Goodyear in second place. Both of them now come up to join the field.
The assessment,
and that's the blend line. They have to fall into the position of the car that they paced from over in turn one.
The severity of this penalty may very well determine the outcome of this race. I know Binford is a terrifically fair man.
So we continue under yellow at the Indianapolis 500. We'll be right back. Back live at Indianapolis. The yellow is still out. Let's go to the Emergency Medical Center. Jerry Punch is with Dr. Henry Bach.
And Henry just walked out. Henry, what's the status on the two drivers?
Jeff Andretti and Roberto Guerrero are both in here. They're both in good condition, awake and alert. Guerrero has a little bruise on his right knee and a bruise to his left shoulder, but other than that, in good condition. They'll be released from here in just a few minutes.
And Paul, certainly a tribute to the change and altered safety construction of these cars for 1993.
Much better results for Jeff, especially, than last year. Remember that last year Mario was forced to drive past his son's accident then, too. Alonso Jr. will sit at the head of the field, followed by Mario Andretti and then his father, former winners in the top three positions. But this is a very important time of the race as they pass through the midpoint and begin to look toward the last 100 miles. We asked Little Al, where does the frustration come into play during the course of a 500-miler?
Frustration that I've ever faced in the Indy 500 is not being able to get my car working for me after about 5 or 6 pit stops. The race is 3/4 over with, and I'm still loose. It wears on you. So, you know, if you can. For myself, if I can keep up with the racetrack and keep in tune with it, then there is no frustration.
What he's really talking about is driving here, you have the best of times and the worst of times, depending on the knife edge setting. And when you think also about the Andrettis, as you said, Paul, Mario having to drive by the wreck of his son as he did last year, and at the same time try to fend off a penalty that would probably cost him the race. I mean, at the one point, there's Shelley Unser, you see Al Jr.'s wife in the pits. But I mean, these scenes, they really come to a head.
Al Unser Jr., the leader of the race, we should be going green shortly. Kevin Cogan is now 15th after leading earlier. Jimmy Vassar, a quiet but strong run, has him in 13th. And Willie T. Ribbs now runs in 25th position. The pace picks up. The Camaro pace car down onto the pit lane. And we're green again at Indianapolis. Al Unser Jr. answers the green with a move to the inside. Mario Andretti chases him down into the corner. Gets cut low. Mario loses some momentum there.
The brightly colored car is Eddie Cheever. He's been lapped. Keep your eyes on Al Unser Jr.
Eddie Cheever runs 18th. Certainly not a factor in this race at the moment.
And as they come off of turn 2, I can just watch them kind of trying to get to the left, Paul, to get that clean air so their front wings don't give way.
Al Unser Jr., the 11th different leader of the race, a new record at the Indy 500.
Paul, this race has taken a while to really develop, but it has developed now. It's a very exciting battle between the two great families of auto racing, the Unsers and the Andrettis, the Capulets and Montagues, you might say, of this sport. With, I still say, Nigel Mansell can't be counted out. He's fast and he's making up for lost time.
If they're concerned about rain, it doesn't seem to be a concern at all now. Nigel Mansell, you watch over his shoulder. Skies, in fact, brightened just a few moments ago. So again, we give you the rundown, this time after 137 laps. Listen in the corner just how much Nigel and everyone else have to come out of the throttle.
Surprising thing right now is the number 51, Eddie Cheever, who's definitely way down in the race, but he's actually pulling away from Little Al. He's in clean air and going like heck.
The Valvoline speed chart there. Mansell's last lap down at 196 miles an hour, running in traffic. Fittipaldi moved around the car ahead. Mansell is still in pursuit of Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi is 5th right now. Mansell 6th.
You know, like Mansell, I had a road racing background when I first came to Indianapolis. Of course, a much lesser caliber, but never mind. I found as I drove through my first Indy here that I really enjoyed it, and I suspect Nigel is finding the same thing. There's a rhythm to driving the track. The turns, people say, how don't you get bored? The turns are the same, just 4 turns over and over again. They change each lap because of the wind condition and the groove, as Bobby's been describing, and it's really fun to meet that challenge. I think Nigel's having a great day out there.
Al Unser Jr. still chased by Mario Andretti, the lead of the race, back with Nigel Mansell chasing Fittipaldi. Ford telemetry from Mansell's car.
Bobby, look at how little Nigel is moving that steering wheel. I think he's got a near perfect setup right now, and he's got the nerve to ride a high line off those turns. He's coming to you.
He's an extremely smooth driver. Of course, as he goes through, he looks just as smooth as we see him on television, Tim.
Well, he carried speed in turn 1 all the way into the corner before he jumped back out of the throttle.
I think you could compare Nigel Mansell with Little Al. Both of them are, without doubt, the 2 smoothest drivers we've had on the track today.
Let's go to Jerry Punch now.
Jeff Andretti just walked out of the infield care center. First of all, Jeff, how you feeling?
Oh, I feel fine. I got a few bumps and bruises, but I walked away from it all right.
What happened out there?
Well, just going down into turn 3, I saw Roberto coming up, but as we got to the corner, I felt that I had enough of the car ahead of him, and I felt that I should go in on the line. So I went in, but I didn't go all the way in on the line, but he had committed himself as well going into the corner, and we both met at the same point, and he just touched my rear wheel and got me sideways, and that's all, you know, just a racing accident out there.
The front of the car, a big difference from a year ago?
Well, the car, you know, my car was being really upset with the dirty air and everything. I just couldn't quite find the balance with my car, and so I was just really just trying to bide my time out there and just hang in there and trying to stay out of trouble, and that's what I was trying to do, and, you know, just trouble found me.
Unlike last year, in 1993, Jeff Andretti able to walk away.
But you know, the amazing thing is that Jeff and Roberto came together here on just the second day of practice. In that case, it was Jeff sliding up into Roberto, the reverse of what happened here, but they've connected with each other before in this month.
Battle for fourth now. Scott Brayton, the 22 car is in it. Behind him, Fittipaldi and Nigel Mansell as they close in.
This is Brayton's 12th Indy 500. Very experienced driver. He said, I paid my dues at Indy, but I know that when Indy pays off, it pays off big. And it's paying off for him right now here.
Evenly spaced into the first turn, the continuing battle for fourth.
Brayton's best finish to date, 6th, so he's running ahead of that right now. Very heady drive, and I think this is a man who really wants to finish this one.
As we watch this battle for fourth, the leader of the race, still Al Unser Jr., followed by Mario Andretti, and then Al Unser.
No, Paul, to get a good example of what dirty air does to the race cars, Eddie Cheever is still pulling away from Little Al and Mario. Now that shows you what happens when you're in clean air as opposed to running down behind the cars. That's the reason our speeds go from 195 up to 210 sometimes.
Fittipaldi inches up on Scott Brayton.
Bobby, we've talked about the engine battle.
More than inches up now as Fittipaldi moves inside Brayton and moves around him. So now Fittipaldi into third place. Mansell will line up behind Brayton as well.
And that means that Chevrolets are placed first and third. They were first and fourth before that.
So Fittipaldi in fourth. Scott Brayton in fifth. Nigel Mansell in sixth. Fittipaldi now looking for Al Unser, his red and white car. Should sit about 5 seconds ahead of Fittipaldi.
You can watch him get down on the rumble strips, Paul. It doesn't seem to be affecting his handling at all.
Roberto Guerrero has now come out from his visit with the doctors, and Jerry Punch is there.
Well, Roberto able to smile just a little bit. Roberto, what happened out there?
Well, I'm obviously very disappointed. The Budweiser car was running very well, and I thought I was clear passing Jeff Andretti, and he didn't think I was, and he closed the door on me, and we touched, and that was the end of it. You know, it was something that I was very afraid going into the race, the difficulty of passing people and making sure that you were through, but I thought I was, he didn't, and it's just one of those things.
Has it gotten very slippery out there?
No, my car was working very, very well. You know, we were working very well. We had a couple of stop-and-go penalties that didn't help at all, but we were still running really strong.
Roberto Guerrero.
Sad to see Roberto out of the race. You watch Al Unser Jr. now threading his way through traffic, and Mario is right there following him through. Look at Mario close in as Little Al is slowing down because of Eddie Cheever running a bit slower just in front of him, and Cheever having to handle up another slower car.
Little Al obviously thought he had a little traffic between him and Mario, a little bit of it.
Mario now looks for a pass to the inside. Boy, look at that swoop as Mario comes across and drops in behind Little Al, tries to get behind him and then under him in the corner, but he can't do it.
Yeah, that's a Ford and a Chevy right there. Mario's in a Ford, Little Al is in a Chevy, so we can watch that and see how the horsepower difference looks in these two cars, Paul.
But the disparity there was due to momentum issues rather than horsepower ones. But still, the battle between Ford and Chevy today is a very hot one.
Give Mario the board showing where he is in relation. I don't think he needs to know. He knows where that leader is.
That's what I was going to laugh about, Paul. He can see his mirror, not the 5/10 of a second that he is behind.
Again, 3 leaders at the front of the Indianapolis 500. 150 laps complete. 50 to go. Al Unser Jr. in front. Mario Andretti in second. Al Unser in third. All former winners of the Indianapolis 500. We continue to run under green. Shelley Unser keeps track of her husband. from the pit area. Again, traffic a key factor. This track is somewhat narrower by about 16 feet than last year. Last year, you could move below that yellow line. It was paved. There was an apron down there. It no longer exists. The cars are slower because of that. Also slower because they've removed some of the aerodynamic devices from the underside of the car. Mario has him set up. Mario makes the move, and Mario is passed on the approach into the corner.
Now you can see how when Mario went by, the little Al just backed off a little bit. The reason for that was he didn't want that dirty air upsetting his car because he's been running in basically clean air. He wasn't too sure how it would handle right there, Tom.
And did you hear the crowd? They approved of that little maneuver. So now you have Al Unser Jr. and his father just behind him. So a family feud circles the speedway now.
These two men, of course, Al Jr. and Sr. in the order you see them here, ran first and third here last year. They are now running second and third.
So a new leader of the Indianapolis 500, it is Mario Andretti once again. Al Unser Jr. is second. His father is in third. Live at Indianapolis, while we were away, Emerson Fittipaldi slipped around Al Unser and into third place, and now look at him. He is positioned right behind Unser Jr., looking for any place that he can maneuver to pass. The leader is still Mario Andretti. 156 laps are complete.
Shades of 1989 when these two men battled each other for the lead right down to the last laps.
Fittipaldi has been able to close in from time to time, as you see it here. Now he looks to the inside, going to turn one. Can't find the room that he wants.
You made the point at the outset, Paul, that history tends to repeat itself here sometimes, and we're seeing that happen in some eerie ways right now.
Bobby, they come past you.
Yes, and you know, Paul, I was going to mention some of the biggest things that the guys have that are secretive is how they make their front wings work better in traffic than the other ones do. Now, I get around and talk to some of these guys, and that is their closest guarded secret that they have.
The Valvoline race summary at 150 laps. That's 7 laps ago. At that time, Al Unser Jr. was the leader, but since then, of course, Mario Andretti has gone into the lead. Jr. to second. Al Sr., who was in third, fell victim to Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi comes around Stefan Gregoire, fastest rookie in the field. His team, by the way, his team brought a plane load, 100 people from France this morning. How did they do that? On the Concorde. Came in through Montreal, supersonic, and then down to Indianapolis. What a way to spend a day, Concording to Indy, see the race, and go home.
As we see Mario Andretti ripping along in the lead with only 42 laps to go, it starts to make you think how often he has come this far before only to have victory snatched away from him at the last moment.
Mario has led 3 times thus far for 59 laps of this race. Traffic still a critical factor for all of the drivers here.
You know, Mario had really a very lucky win at Phoenix a few weeks ago, and I think that in some ways it removed I don't know, kind of a monkey from his back, and I think he's in a position to enjoy the idea of good luck.
Fittipaldi looking for room inside of Al Unser Jr. The fight is for second. Fittipaldi is down there. Can he hold on? No, Little Al slams the door on him.
That's 2 Chevrolet engines right there. Boy, you can see they were just perfectly matched. The only way Emil was able to pull up alongside Little Al was using the draft, Paul.
Right now, within the top 10, 6 are Fords, 4 are Chevrolets. Fittipaldi, as Little Al moves alongside of Jim Crawford. Fittipaldi comes up, moves along Crawford as well. But the momentum stays the same. Fittipaldi stays in position.
And this is where you have to race not only the track, but the traffic, timing your moves to coincide with the slower cars.
There's now 1/5 of the race left, 100 miles. There's Eddie Cheever into the pits. Appears to be all routine there. Most of the drivers will tell you the middle 300 miles, they take it easy. Easy if you can call speeds at 200 miles an hour easy. And then the last 100 miles is when you go. Is that right, Bobby?
Yes, that's absolutely right, Paul. But ironically, Eddie Cheever, during this particular course of the race, has been the fastest car.
Let's get an update on Big Al from Jerry Punt.
We have seen Al Unser Sr. back out of the throttle the last 5 or 6 laps. There's a reason for that. The car is overheating. I've just spoken with Brian Barnhart. They're going to hope to be able to milk it home to the finish. They're going to back off for another 4 or 5 laps, make a final pit stop, and let him turn it up and see if he can pick up the ride for 5. Paul?
And as he backed out of it, Nigel Mansell came around and into 4th place. So Al Unser on the cruise. That brings Mansell forward into 4th behind Fittipaldi. Let's see if we can pick him out. There's Fittipaldi. Mansell should be about 5 seconds back.
Fittipaldi moving by lap traffic. That was Dominic Dobson. He dusted by.
The distance between Little Al and Fittipaldi has widened.
Once again, Little Al finds himself behind Eddie Cheever. Cheever has had an excellent month for himself here, earning a lot of respect.
You know, one of the major problems with overheating, Paul, these cars have is hamburger wrappers, hot dog wrappers getting into the radiator. That's what they'll be trying to check on Big Al's car when he comes in.
And by the way, don't think that Mario Andretti is well ahead. He is only 2.3 seconds ahead of this car, of Al Unser Jr. Fittipaldi is right behind Little Al right now, and we expect stops just any moment.
Mario is just about 3 seconds up at this point, leading by 3 seconds.
The pit stops for the leaders are generally in sync now. Mario Andretti's last stop was on the 132nd lap. For Little Al, it was the 127th. Fittipaldi's the 129th, as was Nigel Mansell's on 129.
This is the final game planning, Paul. They're looking at this stop. And then, you know, they have to all be together for the last because nobody wants to be coming in for fuel like 1 or 2 laps from the end. So they're really watching the game planning change now.
And, Bobby, this is where the stop is so critical, not only in its time, but what you do to the car, because you're not going to have another chance. Here comes Little Al into the pits. Let's see what he does, if anything.
Little Al on the roll to pit road, and Gary Gerould waits.
Indeed, we watch, we look, and now we see the defending champion coming in. They were hoping, Paul, that they might have a shot at this being their last pit stop. If it's green the rest of the way, that won't be the case. They'll have to come for a splash and go. Remember, if you can save 2 seconds here, you save a couple hundred yards on the racetrack. And right now, Junior waiting for all of that precious fuel to be in. Now it is there, and he lights up those tires as he gets out in 16.4 seconds.
Sticker tires on that car now.
And Paul, I notice he's got brand new stickers on there, plus my calculations show he can go to the 200 laps, which would be the end.
So theoretically, the last stop of the race for Al Unser Jr. It's a sprint to the finish now. You notice that they have been picking up some debris, not only in the coolers, but the onboard camera on Al's car got some there. A crew member thoughtfully removed it as they did to stop. Let's go to Jack.
Paul, Mario Andretti and his crew are trying to run this final fuel stop as far as they can. They're hoping, as we watch Big Al Unser Sr. taking his pit stop, they're hoping to make their final stop of the afternoon. But it is a very, very tight window, and they're not sure yet.
Big Al, routine service here, waiting for the fuel to flow in. A squirt of water to clear the fuel off the side, and he stalls. He stalls. Immediately, they bring the starter over the wall, hook it to the back of the car. Very costly for Al. Let's go to Jerry Punt.
And they have refired the car. Big Al began to move away, and the crew has not cleaned the right side radiator out. So they stopped to clean the radiator. When he stopped, that's when the car stalled. But they were able to refire it. It cost him an extra 12 seconds here in the pits.
29 total seconds in the pits, dropped him to 11th place.
You know, mechanics have those starters just sitting right there waiting because this is a common problem. It happens a lot, Paul.
It didn't take long to get the starter over the wall and then restarted, but it took long enough to be very costly to Big Al and change the complexion of this race. Little Al runs 10th now.
Paul,
there went Fittipaldi.
Paul, we have Robbie Gordon just out of the pits, just pouring out. Down the bottom of the track, he's got big problems. This is liable to bring out a yellow.
Scott Brayton in and out. We got a glimpse just before he disappeared around the corner by the trees of Gordon with something misting at the back of the car. Brayton in 7th as he sits in the pits at this moment. Again, these will be the last stop to the green flag if everyone has done their calculations correctly. The 167th lap. And here is Fittipaldi in the pits, the second place competitor. Also the leader, Mario Andretti, comes to the Newman Haas pit. All of these under the green flag. Fittipaldi receiving service. They're waiting to wave him out. Mario's a little further down the pits, closer to the pit exit. Here comes Fittipaldi. He's on the roll. They disconnect from Mario. Mario will get out ahead of Fittipaldi. Mario, because of pit placement, can rocket out of the pits. The 100-mile-an-hour speed limit ends only a few feet ahead. Fittipaldi had to be careful and roll until he was past that mark.
That was the benefit of the good
yellow flag.
Yellow.
And no indication yet as to why. This one comes a little late for Mario and Fittipaldi, though it may end up helping Nigel Mansell. So we're under the yellow. No indication as to why. We assume it is debris. Raul Boisel will pick up the lead. The yellow is on because of a toe-in on the circuit. We'll be back.
Okay, I'm up with Senior.
Back under yellow at Indianapolis, the yellow because of Robbie Gordon's toe-in. You look down from the Goodyear Blimp Spirit. Some great pictures here today. Look at the gigantic crowd at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as Spirit floats so lazily over the speedway. In the pits now, the leader of the race, Scott Goodyear. He assumed the lead under yellow. This is actually his 8th stop of the day. He is 2 ahead of everyone else. And under yellow, he comes back into the action. So now Scott Goodyear moves back into the fight. Let's get an update from everybody, beginning with Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, we saw Mario Andretti and Nigel Mansell. They pitted before the caution, and there is a question mark as to whether they can finish the race without an additional stop to take on fuel. The same cannot be said, though, for Ari Luyendyk and the Ganassi Racing Team. They know now that they have plenty of fuel because they waited until the caution came out. They've set the bar setting for a soft bar, and what they've done is they've put on sticker tires. So they're going to the distance. Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
In the Fittipaldi camp, they think this yellow will enable them to go the distance without coming in. In Little Al's pit, Rick, will you have to bring him in to top off?
We're going to bring him in right now, Jerry.
Okay, so Unser will be in here to top off, but he'll be at the back of the procession. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
And Allison Senior pitted with 35 laps to go, guys. He can only run 32 laps, so he would not make it. That's why Brian Barnhart and the crew are going to bring him in. But they got another problem. He has a clutch that's slipping. That's why the car stalled a minute ago. So they're going to watch very carefully as they wait for Al Senior to come on pit road. Will it stall? Will he lose his shot at number 5?
Al Unser effectively out of contention at this moment as the crew waits. We'll return with more of the Indy 500 after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Welcome back to the Indianapolis 500, and we are fast approaching as well, the climax to what has been a fabulous race. Tyler Alexander, where's your money now?
Still with Mario. He's in with a pretty good chance there, but he's had some bad luck in the past. I hope he doesn't today. Seems to be running very well. It's hard to say there was a black flag for Emerson there because it looked like it was going to be quite a battle to the finish between Mario, Emerson, and Unser Jr., but now it appears that Emerson's had a black flag stop-and-go penalty for some reason. Perhaps in a few minutes here we'll find out exactly why.
Of course, the longer we're under yellow, looks as though we're about to go green again now, the better that is for drivers as far as fuel consumption is concerned.
Yes, it is. Mario and Emerson stopped, and appears that Nigel did as well, at least 2 laps, perhaps 3 laps after Unser Jr., but I think it just showed you Unser Jr. stopped again to be re-topped up with fuel. So these laps under the yellow flag will certainly help the fuel consumption figures for Mario to make it to the end of the race.
Live pictures here. What's about Nigel Mansell's chances now, who's third, Tyler?
Well, they're as good as anybody's still. It's still a long ways to the end, and anything can happen.
Let's go back.
Mario sitting up high. Fittipaldi comes down to the inside, and they battle side by side. Fittipaldi and Mario, and Fittipaldi surges to the front. Mario back to second.
Sam Mansell went right around the outside of his teammate Mario Andretti.
Now Lyondike moves on Andretti as well. Lyondike drops in behind Fittipaldi and is already trying on Memo.
Obviously, Mario Andretti's had some sort of a problem.
The lead changes very, very quickly as Fittipaldi comes to the front. Lyondike to second. Mario dropping back. Fittipaldi threading his way through traffic now.
Remember, they've just been in the pit. Their tanks are full. The handling is different than when they were last out there, and it is working for Emerson Fittipaldi.
The black and yellow car they were working around was Davy Jones.
No more pit stops. This is a race to the end.
Now here comes Fittipaldi as he tries to stretch out his lead and use traffic to his advantage. At the top of the field now on that maneuver, Mansell moves toward the front on the official scoring. On board now with Mansell. Fittipaldi to second. Lyondike third. Mario fourth and Scott Brayton fifth.
A rookie leads the Indy 500 under green deep in the race.
And he passed everybody on the outside, the inside. He didn't care where he got them. He went by what made it look like easy.
An incredible series of passes that puts the red number 5 at the front of the field. And he does it very quickly. Of course, the other cars in the lineup were a factor for everyone. While they were moving low to battle between Fittipaldi and Lyondike, it was Mansell high, Bobby.
Yes, he certainly was. He's using all the track. But remember, hey, this is the last pit stop. This is going to the end. This guy's learned all day long. Now he's after it.
Remember that no defending world champion has ever won Indy. An amazing stat, and right now, Nigel Mansell is in a position to become the first.
For the most part, he's running in clean air, too, Sam. That's going to be a big advantage right now for him.
23 laps away from that possibility of winning as the defending Formula One champion. Mansell.
Both the Newman-Haas cars running very strong throughout the whole race. One of the two Penske cars out, the other one, Fittipaldi, doing battle.
Just so you know what that sign means, it means you're down 2 seconds to Mario and 1 second ahead of the guy behind you.
Ahead of him is Lyondike. Behind him, Boissel. Mario runs in fourth. The order is still Mansell, Fittipaldi, Lyondike, Andretti, Boissel, Goodyear, and Brayton.
Hear him back out as he goes through the turns. Back into the throttle for the short chute. Back out again.
Carl Haas, the owner of Nigel Mansell's car, also Mario's car.
He's already chewed both ends of that cigar up, Paul.
He begins to slip a little bit behind. They give the board to Mario. Mario Andretti in fourth place. Comes out very close to that wall down the backstretch.
And Bobby, you can tell the handling on Mario's car is not what it once was because he's late in getting into the throttle coming off the turns.
Well, Sam, I'm having a hard time figuring out right now whether it's the handling or whether he started off. I think when they had the restart of the race, he had an engine problem and wouldn't take off. But right now, I have to say he's got a little bit of a handling problem.
Not Not going to be a cakewalk for Nigel, though. Right behind him is Fittipaldi.
We can watch Nigel and Fittipaldi both come through here. The track is neutral. In other words, it's fast right now. And these guys are getting through here very good.
We'll stay with you now. The remaining 20 laps. They've just completed the 180th. 50 miles to go in the Indy 500.
Clear-cut battle between a very experienced driver here, Fittipaldi, and a former winner, and a rookie of enormous talent.
And here in the closing laps, too, you may get a glimpse of a slower car moving on one of the access roads. Another advantage to the change in design here at the track. Older days, that might have necessitated a yellow flag, bringing the field together again.
Look for slower traffic as they come up to lap, the slower cars being a factor. Emerson Fittipaldi should have more experience, but Mansell has learned so fast he's playing it well.
There's the interval leaderboard. You can see Landyke is not that far back, nor is Mario or Raul. All of these cars run right together.
The Indy 500 has been getting closer every year for the last few years. 6 of the tightest finishes. There's Lynn St. James. A great run. Very disappointing for her to go so deep into it. She finished it last year.
Lynn St. James was that slower moving car. They give the board to Ari as Nigel Mansell continues to run out in front. Fittipaldi is second, Ari Luyendyk third.
And Paul, as we watch Mario come through the number 2 turn over here, we hear him lift out the throttle really bad, which tells me he's got some bad handling problems. Probably the tires he put on at last just don't match the track right now.
Yellow once again. The yellow light has winked on, apparently for Lynn St. James. She did stop in a precarious position just above the pit entrance, so they'll have to get her out of the way. Everyone will bunch up once again. What we thought was going to be a sprint to the finish will become even more serious. Teresa Fittipaldi, now Carl Haas. They watch from the pits this turn of events. Kenny Bernstein watches his car.
This could play into Mansell's hands because he will have a clear track on the restart, not coming up to lap slower cars for several laps.
So now they are slowed down once again, with Mansell leading Fittipaldi and Ari Luyendyk. Now what has Mansell learned on how to come back to green from these yellow flags? Momentum is absolutely critical at that point, where you pick up the throttle and whether or not you can surprise the person behind you. Luyendyk weaves back and forth, keeping those tires warm. Again, it's Mansell, Fittipaldi, Luyendyk, Boesel, and Mario Andretti. It looks like they're going to bring Mario into the pits. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, as Bobby Unser actually said, they looked like they were having a handling problem. They're going to take this set of tires off and put a set on that they had earlier in the race that he had radioed in, and Mario had said, save them, we may need them. He is going for them now. Nigel Mansell, on the other hand, has been told to stay out and wait for the green flag. But it's a smart move on the part of Newman Haas because Mario's got nothing to lose by getting these tires off. He's been fading quickly.
Right now, the no pit sign is in place at the top of the pits. Maybe we can get a glimpse of it as Nigel comes down alongside the pit road. Behind the Camaro pace car, Mansell leads the race under yellow, 183 laps. Into the record book, Teresa Fittipaldi, her lucky earring. As she waves Emil on every lap, trying to give him what she calls winning energy. It worked once before. It was worth $1 million for Fittipaldi. This restart, it'll be critical. Penske, the owner of Fittipaldi's car.
This is a bad break for Mario, Paul, because they're going to go green the next time. The crew's not going to be able to get those tires off.
The 51 car makes its stop into the pits. Gary Bettenhausen. Let's get an update on Fittipaldi from Gary Gerald.
One of the things they're optimistic about in the Fittipaldi camp, Paul, is the fact that they believe their car does work better as that fuel load recedes, and he's been hanging in solidly with Mansell, so they think they'll have an opportunity to challenge here in these final laps.
Well, this is going to guarantee, Paul, everybody enough fuel till the end because all these yellow flags are really stockpiling the mileage they can have.
Fittipaldi, the lone Chevrolet representative in the top 5, out to battle all of these Ford engines. Roger Penske listening so carefully, wondering what will happen.
It's out of Penske's hands right now. It's up to the drivers.
It's out of everyone's hands but these 6. Notice Raul is now up into 4th place. And here they come. The green flag flies. And Fittipaldi trying to catch position on Mansell. Is this inexperience for Mansell, giving it over to Fittipaldi? And look at Lyondike as he moves to 2nd place.
Desperate pass by Ari Lyondike, a very good pass. Really got Mansell asleep on that one. Boy, Fittipaldi run through here. Turn 2 wide open, Paul.
That was an inexperienced move by Mansell. He should have gotten on the throttle sooner. If it had been Fittipaldi or Little Al, you can bet they would have.
Fittipaldi becomes a record 12th leader of the Indianapolis 500 with 15 laps to go.
I just don't think Mansell...
not over yet, Bobby.
I just don't think Mansell realized how hungry these guys were to try to win the biggest race in the world.
Jack Harud, you have an update on that pass.
Well, Jim McGee was on the radio when they dropped the green flag, trying to tell Mansell how to get the jump. He didn't get it.
That comes from experience. He's learned all day, but he didn't learn that part. Now through here, Lyondike's through here, and then Mansell all hooked up.
But Mansell has recovered his nerves. He now has 2 passes he must make. The first one on Lyondike, and then, of course, the one on Fittipaldi. Can he do it? 14 laps to go.
Don't give up on Raul Boisel, because he's in this chase as well.
They've just raised their speed up from about 197 mile an hour lap to running almost 210 mile an hour lap, Paul.
Sprinting to the finish of the Indy 500. The picture, of course, of Boisel as we watch Nigel Mansell. Fittipaldi just 1 second ahead of Lyondike.
Mansell's getting into the turns fast, but he's slow coming off of them, which is blunting his attack. And meantime, Fittipaldi is getting away. If Mansell's going to make a move, it's got to be now on Lyondike or forget it.
And you know, right now, they've all got them in their race gears. Remember we said they have a cruise gear and a race gear. I guarantee you they're all in the race gear right now.
13 laps to go. Remember, too, historically, the person who leads at lap 190 does not always win the Indianapolis 500. Closest finish among the top 3, 1.8 seconds and 86. Rahal, Kogan, Mears, owing to a late race yellow.
Emerson pulling away just a little bit, but still looking very smooth through here, Paul.
We have the makings of a very tight finish here at Indy. Boisel closes on Mansell. Lyondike closes on Fittipaldi.
And Fittipaldi, you might think at his age, he's in his mid-40s, would he be getting tired now? No, he is extremely fitter a couple of years ago in a contest at Pele. I think he's good for the last laps at full throttle.
Brazilian run 1st and 4th at Indy right now. Boy, Mansell got it way high coming off that last corner.
Mansell's battling it off the turns, there's no question. He's swooping into the turns well. He just can't bring the car off the turn.
The handling on Mario Andretti's car has also been fixed. We can hear him going through turn 2, and he's wide open, trying to catch the other guys.
So to speak, on the comparison between Ford and Chevrolet was that Ford had more power. But here, a Chevrolet in the lead is being pursued by 2 Fords, and they're making no impression on it at all.
Ammo is still pulling away, Sam. He's just pulling away a little bit each lap.
Well, if the common knowledge was that the Fords were faster, Fittipaldi is disproving that at this moment. Now 2.6 seconds ahead of Lyondike. Lyondike 3 seconds ahead of Nigel Mansell. The interval is widening at this moment.
And they said right there, they adjust everything they can. They get their boost gauges where they get utterly the maximum boost that they can get. They have them again in their race gear. It's flat out to the finish.
Fittipaldi turned the last lap at 211 miles an hour, a full 2 miles an hour faster than Lyondike. Lyondike and 5 faster than Mansell.
He's run the race the way Rick Mears used to run it, just keeping in the headwaters of the race until the last minute, making sure that his setup was right, and then going for it. And you see the interval, it's going up.
And that interval's enough to where he can break the draft. They're not getting a lot of benefit from his dirty air behind him there, Sam and Paul.
Look at the distance now. Plenty of room between Fittipaldi and second place Lyondike. He pulls away, 9 laps to go.
Remember, Emerson won the championship and the Indy 500, as you see Roger Penske back in 1989, 4 years ago. 4 years is too long ago, Emerson said. It's time for something new.
Pass Bobby Unser again.
He's there still looking very good, too. Or watch Mansell trying his best to catch up. It's yellow again, Paul. Yellow.
The yellow comes out. This will slow the field again. And depending on how long it takes, indication is that Nigel Mansell brushed the wall, and that brought out the yellow.
That comes as no surprise to me at all. He's been riding a bucking Bronco for the last few laps since the restart. Here he is. Let's look on the
over.
right.
Nothing obvious there. Nose wing is in place. All suspension members appear straight. Mansell doesn't seem to be bothered by it.
No, and everything is smooth. You don't see the car jumping or anything moving around erratic at all, Paul.
Equipment didn't roll, so they should be able to come back to green rather quickly. As soon as they get there. Look at Nigel jump. What's he doing there, Bobby? He took it over onto the rumble strips for a second. Let's watch here.
He's probably just feeling, trying to see if everything is all right. He knows what he's done, whatever it is, but it didn't happen over here, so I didn't have a report on it.
Bobby, if he brushed the wall slightly, he might have an alignment problem, and he just wanted to see right how the car felt to him.
Yes, that's right, Sam, but he gives no indication of wanting to pull in and get it checked.
No, I agree.
I think he's going for broke on the thing right now.
It's all he really can do. A pit stop he'd be history if he pitted.
Almost coming to a full stop as they bunch behind the pace car.
Going to be another bunch up. This is really making this one of the most exciting races I've seen.
This is the best opportunity for Arie Luyendyk all day. He's sitting right behind Emerson Fittipaldi.
Other cars waved around. Chip Ganassi, Lyondike's owner. And everybody has another chance. Though in the last few laps, Fittipaldi has been a good 3 to 4 miles an hour faster than any of the other contenders.
You watch Roger Penske, he knows things can still go wrong.
And as they bunch up, Bobby, there are 10 cars on the leader lap. 7 laps to go. And here is Nigel Mansell on board, coming off of 2. Now watch him. Whoa!
Yeah. He hit hard enough, Paul and Sam, to get sparks or get fire off the magnesium wheel. Pretty hard hit, so I think he's probably has a good chance it's out of alignment a little bit.
Plus, whatever stress damage may exist on that right front wheel and right rear for that matter.
Watch the magnesium right now. Just touch the wall right there. See the flames? That's the magnesium that literally explodes and burns a little bit for a while.
Boy, if you're going to kiss it, though, that's the way to do it. Mansell touches and continues on.
Boy, he rode that out, but now he's got to wonder what has happened to my front suspension. Has it been weakened by the impact? These cars are extremely strong. Chances are he's all right. If he isn't all right, he could risk a very big accident.
And as he goes by us here, we can see the white on the tires. We can see the white on the tires, but we can't see anything else wrong.
Mansell's confidence level might be down just a bit. Let's go to Jack.
Well, then again, it might not, Paul. He radioed into his crew. He said, I got a bit bumpy for a minute, but I'm going to stay out.
He is a fighter.
He is emerging as a master of understatement in this race.
But he does persevere. How many times in his career has Nigel come back from terrible adversity?
Well, with the retirement of Rick Mears and, of course, A.J. Foyt, great masters of the Speedway, people looking for new drivers to root for. Certainly the one we ride with right now, Scott Goodyear's one, and certainly Nigel Mansell is another.
Now let's keep in mind, Nigel hit fairly hard. Whenever you get that fire off the magnesium, it's pretty hard.
They're back green again. Now with 6 laps to go in the Indianapolis 500. Did Mansell learn enough on that last restart? No, Fittipaldi continues to dominate. but he did at least learn, as did Bozell, that they follow the leader everywhere they go. Now 5 laps to go.
Fittipaldi took that restart exactly the way you should. He got in the throttle first, as was his right as the leader of the procession.
Mansell didn't even give his car a chance to get checked out. The guy's going for the road.
Unbelievable personal courage. They call him the Lion, and you can see why.
But he continues to run high off of the corners. There he comes off fairly low. Mario comes off high. Fittipaldi still pursued by Lyondike. Just 10 miles left in the Indianapolis 500.
Emerson Fittipaldi, world champion twice back in the 1970s, retired from racing, came back into Indycar racing, won the championship in '89, and now look at this.
Emil's pulling away just a little bit more again, just like he did after the last yellow.
Emo may be pulling away, but the top 8 are still running fairly close together on this racetrack. This overall in the top 10 may be the closest finish we've ever seen for the top 10 position.
Roger Penske's assessment of his man, Emerson is tough, hard, and doesn't make mistakes. He has made no mistakes in this drive.
Lyondike is trying to catch him again. Lyondike's going clear down on the rumble strips, using all the racetrack he can go. He's really trying hard. I haven't seen him try this hard in years.
Bobby, he's 1.2 seconds back, but he continues to fall further back. He is not closing in.
He's not falling very fast, though, Sam. He's not giving up.
Emerson Fittipaldi can sense the checkered flag and its $1 million purse just ahead. He ran the last lap at 214 miles an hour, the fastest lap thus far in the Indy 500.
When he comes by here, he sounds like he's wide open. I can't hear him lift at all. Here he comes into turn 2 again, right down to the white line, out next to the wall, very conservative, but moving on.
The first 5 drivers in the race right now born outside of the United States. This is an international event.
Emerson Fittipaldi continues to pull away from Ari Lyondike. As we watch now for the white flag that will indicate Fittipaldi has just 2.5 miles to go for his second win at the Indianapolis 500. And there it is. Another Penske car heading into the record book. 2.5 miles to go. Fittipaldi works through the short chute, now into the second turn. One more full straightaway to run. 2 corners of short chute, and then half a stretch, and Fittipaldi will be home. Lyondike tried to close, couldn't do it, dropped even further back. In fact, it may become a battle for second between Mansell and Lyondike. Here comes Fittipaldi, Emerson Fittipaldi. The final turn for home, the checker flag, and Emerson Fittipaldi has won his second Indianapolis 500. Fittipaldi led only the last 16 laps of the race to score Roger Penske's 9th Indianapolis 500 victory. Fittipaldi has won the 500. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, the jubilant scene. Here's Roger Penske in your 25th year, your 9th Indianapolis win. What's the emotion, Roger?
Well, I think it just proves that what a great driver Emerson is. We had a tough breaks in the middle of the race, but it's amazing. I don't know what to say. I'm just thrilled for our team, for Marlboro, our sponsors, everyone, and especially for Rick Mears, who was here to help us get this thing done.
Congratulations. Get to victory lane.
Thank you.
So in his own way, Rick Mears figures into yet another Indy win. In second was Ari Lyondike. Mansell was third. Raul Boesel fourth. In fifth, Mario Andretti. Sixth, Scott Brayton. Scott Goodyear came across the line in seventh. Eighth was Allenzer Jr. Teo Fabi came across in ninth. And 10th was John Andretti. All of those on the leader lap. We'll be back to talk with our new winner right after this.
Well, that was a bit special, wasn't it? Many congratulations to Emerson Fittipaldi, but Nigel Mansell has got 3rd place on his debut drive at the Indianapolis 500. Tyler Alexander, what do you make of that?
Well, I think he did a superb job. He kept out of, well, nearly kept out of trouble all day long. Looks like he was having some problems just in the last few laps of the race, brushing the wall there. And he certainly got out-fumbled on the restart when he was leading the race. But it did look like his car was pushing or understeering a bit too much, and you did see him brush the wall there. So, all in all, he did a superb job. He kept it on the island and finished third, which is a huge achievement just to finish there, and to finish well is even better.
The celebrations for Fittipaldi are only just starting. Tony Jardine, what do you make of Nigel Mansell's efforts this afternoon?
Truly superb. I mean, he can be justifiably proud of an absolutely brilliant effort, and to smack into the wall like that and see flames come off his wheel was quite tremendous. I think I wouldn't like to have driven on with suspension possibly about to fall apart, but he did, and he got to the end. It was superb.
Well, that's why they call him the Lion. Magnificent drive from Nigel Mansell. Third place. I mean, expectations are so great. We wanted a little bit better, didn't we? But that's a fabulous drive. Emerson Fittipaldi has won it. Let's go back.
It is a very jubilant victory lane as Emerson Fittipaldi, first two-time world driving champion, now two-time Indianapolis 500 champion, driving for Roger Penske. In his 25th year of competition, Penske brings another car home in victory lane. Emerson Fittipaldi getting help from crew chief Rick Reineman to get the helmet off, and now he can hear the applause of the assembled multitude here. Emerson, congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm so pleased. I mean, that's fantastic. The team did an incredible job, and we had a great recovery the whole month of May, and we did it. We did it.
You waited and waited and waited, and then made your move when it was most important.
Well, I think it was the last two yellows. We had great. No, I'm not having the milk, sir.
Yeah. Now there's a first. Emerson, you're not going to drink the milk.
Well, I'm going to drink the orange juice. That's my producing, and I'm going to have this time orange juice. I produce orange juice.
Back in Sao Paulo, Brazil, he produces the orange juice, so he's going to go that way. But Emerson, let's talk about the restart with Nigel Mansell in the lead. Tell us about the move.
Well, I think it was a good move. You know, Nigel did a really good start too before last, but we were able to catch in again, and you know, the car runs perfect. What else can I say? I'm so pleased. Second win in Indianapolis. I mean, Roger Penske and his dealership, and Marlboro, his backup, and all the team, they did a beautiful job. Thank you.
Well, we have the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway here to make a very special presentation to you, Emerson. In addition to the Borg Warner Trophy, Tony George is here to make an extremely important presentation of the victory wreath. Tony?
Emerson, on behalf of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Well, that's a bit unfortunate. We'll be back just as soon as we can in the States, but Emerson Fittipaldi has won the Indianapolis 500. Third place for Nigel Mansell. And there's a first as well, Tyler. Fittipaldi says no to the milk. He produces orange juice back at home, and that's what he prefers.
It is quite interesting, but Emerson did the right thing. He was very careful all day long. At one stage, he was a lap behind. He didn't let that bother him. The team is very good at working with the car all day long, and when it came time to go quick, Emerson went quick, and he won the race, which is overshadows the efforts from all of the other people, because various people led, but he won the race and did the right things at the right time.
Tony, let's once again try to put into context the drive by Nigel Mansell. How good was it?
Well, it's good enough that he's conquered Indianapolis first time out. Okay, it's not as good as 66 and Graham Hill from a rookie to do it, but he was so nearly there. As Tyler said, he just got jumped that second time around. He didn't get the power on early enough to get the power through onto the straightaway and come past that green flag. We don't know why. We suspect he was talking to his pits, or they were talking to him, so that will be something they'll talk about after
We'll have a look
the
at
race.
it again in a moment or so, Tony, but I think we've got our pictures back, so let's go back to the United States.
Two-time winner of the Indy 500, and he became the 12th leader of this race on lap 185, and he led the rest of the way.
Well, there will be a tremendous number of stories from the other contenders, like Ari Landijk, who finished 2.8 seconds behind the winner, or Mansell, 4.2 seconds behind. Raul Boesel, 4.7 seconds. and Mario Andretti. In 5th place, think of this, only 5.
Well, it's worth a few pounds a month, isn't it, for the quality of the live sport that we serve up here on Sky Sports. Emerson Fittipaldi has won the Indianapolis 500, the 1993 race. Nigel Mansell was leading somewhat 14, 16 laps from home, was it? Tyler Alexander, as we went green again from a yellow flag situation, Mansell was outmanoeuvred. What do you think happened here?
Well, several things could have happened. Either he was talking to the pit crew, wasn't aware that the restart was actually happening, because on the yellow light to green situation before this one, he did a superb move, which it appears most people missed. But he passed Mario, Emerson, the whole lot, and did a very good restart. But unfortunately, on the crucial restart, when he was leading the race, something happened. Either he didn't pick the pace up, the car wasn't handling quite right. There are numerous things that could have happened to him. And the other two appeared to have done it exactly right, especially the one leading there.
I mean, it does seem extraordinary that he got the one before this so right and that one wrong. He was almost going backwards there, Tony, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, but nonetheless, it's a very small error. He's got into 3rd place. He'd be up on the rostrum if it was a Grand Prix, and he'll earn a lot of money from that and a lot of respect from the rest of the Indy drivers. We'll have to wait and see. He could well be leading the kart championship still after this. I'm not sure, because Fittipaldi was 3rd in Long Beach. We'll wait and see. But don't take anything away from Emerson Fittipaldi, twice world champion with Lotus in 72, with McLaren, and you were around there in 74 when Emo did it then. He gave up Formula One for 3 years, and then he came into Indy racing. 10 years experience, 5 years he said it's taken him to get to know about oval racing. And don't forget, in this event as well, that man Fittipaldi from Brazil, he missed his pit in one of the pit stops. He's had a stop-go penalty, and he still caught them all up and won the Indy 500 for the 2nd time. And it was a brilliant performance from the Brazilian, who is greatly respected and admired, the hero of Ayrton Senna.
Very, very much so. And he didn't let anything get away from him during the race. I mean, he was behind, and he just worked at it and got back onto the lead lap. And when it came time to go, he was ready to go, which is a tribute to the patience that he's learned over the years, and also to the calm and patience of the team to make sure that he was. That everything was right when it came time for the shootout at the end, and he certainly did everything that was required of him.
He's also been taking time out this week to coach Mansell, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. He's one of the ones that lent Mansell a lot of time and support and advice, and he went in the press down as saying, look, I want to help a lot of the drivers through this part, especially the difficulty of translating from Grand Prix racing into Indy, and especially the ovals. He spent the last 3 days helping Mansell through, a lot of advice. They're training together, doing a bit of mountain bike riding together apparently, and that's undoubtedly helped calm Mansell's nerves and give him a lot of tips. But the important part of that is that Mansell has been prepared to listen, and I think he's gained a lot from that advice, and he's certainly shown a hell of a lot of maturity on the ovals and great confidence. Mansell could go on and take the championship. He's got as good a chance as the others now.
And the race in general, Tyler, the changes that were made to increase the safety,
well, I think
the number of finishes, that all appears to have been a success.
Yes, it does appear to be an enormous success. As much as everyone was concerned about the rumble strips at the bottom of the track and things, there were a lot more cars finishing. There really were fewer shunts, and it doesn't really appear like anyone was hurt at all. It's an enormous success from the safety standpoint, and very pleasing to see that. Perhaps because the drivers had to actually lift off in the corners and things and be more careful, has led to a safer and better race without losing any of the excitement or thrills of the fight to the finish.
What is the Indianapolis 500? There is Nigel Mansell, territory into which he's never previously been this afternoon.
Yes,
sir.
We are down on the south pit area with Ari Landijk, the second place finisher. Ari, just over 2 seconds.
The guy that's the designer from Lowe's with the sunglasses on.
Incredible run there.
And he's a PR guy, Mike Knight.
Okay, let's just check the result. The top 6 of the 1993 Indianapolis 500 as Mansell takes the applause of those closest to him. Fittipaldi from Brazil has won it. Landyke from Holland in second place. Nigel Mansell of Great Britain in third place. Raul Boesel of Brazil fourth. Mario Andretti of the United States fifth. And Scott Brayton sixth. Andretti was looking so good for so long as well, wasn't he?
Well, he definitely was. I mean, Mario looked very good and very strong. Obviously, no one was aware that Emerson was lurking there, waiting to pounce at the end, but it appears that Mario had a problem with the last set of tires that they fitted on the car on the last pit stop. On the restart, his car wasn't as quick. The other people passed him. He made a late stop to put on a better set of tires, but by then it was too late. The others had that little bit of advantage, and it was been very, very difficult for him to catch up. It's a shame because he ran very strong all day long, led a lot of the race, and looked very good through most of the race, except once again, just happened to get it a bit wrong at the wrong time.
You've speculated, Tony, on Mansell possibly winning the championship this year. With the inside track knowledge you have, do you think he'll be back next year driving the Indy 500?
I think so.
You do?
Yeah, I think he'll go for another season driving Indy cars, just because the places in Formula One seem to be filling up anyway. Where would he go other than McLaren or Ferrari or Williams? Prost has re-signed, Berger's staying where he is at Ferrari, Lazy's re-signed, and so it goes on. Tyler probably knows a bit more than me, but he can't tell you anything because
I hardly know more than you, Tony. You seem to have your ear to the grapevine much more than the rest of us.
I've got my nose to the tarmac. That's what these little marks are.
But you'd put your money, if you had to, on Mansell being around for another season of IndyCar racing?
Because I think he'll grow in confidence now on both ovals, which take up over a third of the season's races. He's going to go back onto another oval. It's the short Milwaukee one, isn't it, very soon? And perhaps he'll go there with a lot more confidence.
Well, I hope he goes there with a reasonable amount of caution. He's certainly gained some confidence today in Indianapolis, but Milwaukee is another place like Phoenix, and he needs to treat it with respect, and I think he's learning, and today he ran very well, so I hope he continues to do that.
It was magnificent, wasn't it? Let's not understate it. It was magnificent. He's done that all afternoon. It was a fabulous drive by Nigel Mansell.
Our Nige finished third.
And that's as far as you're going. Tony?
No, he did a good job.
Magnificent job.
No, he did a brilliant job. And also, let's mention Arie Luyendyk, because he hasn't had a regular ride for about 3 years, although he's got 10 years' experience. He's only ever won 3 races, so great.
Very many congratulations to Emerson Fittipaldi as well. Thank you very much, Tyler. Tony, thank you very much. It has been, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm sure you too, very much Nigel Mansell's day, his debut at the Indianapolis 500. What a magnificent performance. Privileged to bring it to you. Until the next time, from all of us here, goodbye for now.
Sky Sports coverage of the Indianapolis 500 was presented in association with STP.